gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes sir. Then again I'm falling. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes sir. Then again I'm falling. Let Jesus work it out. Please your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes sir. Then again I'm falling. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. I'm rising, yes sir. Then again I'm falling. Let Jesus work it out. Please your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please your Father would work it out.
solitaire.
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Patrick Harry with Church of the Eternal Logos, and tonight we have a very fun and relaxing stream. I'm sure there's going to be a few giggles in the audience tonight. We're going to be listening to, actually, major shout out to Allison of A Devotional Heart, one of our great Orthodox sisters here in the community. Make sure you give her a special thanks for tonight's topic, because she's the one that actually brought it to my attention. And that is a quite prominent New Age podcast. I was looking at their Spotify, and they also have a YouTube channel in which they had a recent podcast talking about what they called the New Age to Dogmatic Christian Pipeline, episode 102, in which they talk about this phenomenon of all these ignoramuses who are leaving the New Age despite having really done their true shadow work, really diving into their deep selves, and therefore they're converting to Christianity, and it's this what they call a dogmatic neo-Christianity. Now, we're going to be listening to this whole section. It's broken up into two parts, so we don't have access to the second part of this podcast. They only have 58 minutes basically available for free. But we're going to go ahead and listen to it, because what we're going to all listen to is people who, in their arrogance, are describing a phenomenon which many of us are actually a part of, right? I'm kind of noted, especially in the ortho circles, for previous experiences with the psychedelics, with the New Age, with the occult, with all these different things. And a lot of my apologetics is geared towards these people. And I plan on ramping a lot of that up here in the near future in regards to New Age outreach. But here we have a married couple, a German man with his American wife, and we're definitely, and here, this is why I think this is a perfect opportunity for us, because this particular New Age podcast is very critical of other New Agers. So I'll give them credence where it's due. They are against the jibby jabs, the stabbies. They are against the sort of transhumanist AI. But of course, they have no metaphysical framework to understand how good and evil would exist and why we should or shouldn't do any of these things. And of course, they consider Christianity a backwards, dogmatic, I don't even think they fully know what dogmatic means, religion that people are converting to. Why? Because it's a trauma response. So according to them, the reason why we've all converted or come back to Christ, come back to, again, we're Orthodox here, so we're a traditional form. We are the church founded by the apostles. So are these people going to be familiar with what Orthodoxy is? Of course not. Of course not. I would be highly surprised if they knew anything about Eastern Orthodox Christianity. However, for them, I have a few highlights here I want to give you guys before we actually just listen to it. So if you guys want, this happy Valentine's Day to everybody. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Valentine's Day. I hope your day's been filled with love. If you are with your loved ones or you're by yourself, you're certainly in a joyful, loving community. Pour yourself a glass of wine, grab a beer, get you a couple fingers of whiskey, and we're just going to have a good time tonight, because we're basically just going to listen to this 58 minutes, or I guess the first 4.5 minutes is nonsense. So basically 54 minutes of audio of this New Age married couple who, again, they view themselves in a very prestigious light because they aren't like the rest of the New Age. So they're against total subjectivity, that you make your own reality. They do recognize there is an objective reality. As I said, they were against the jibby jabs and some of the koof narratives. They are realizing that there's a problem with the artificial intelligence and the transhumanism. However, as you'll hear they speak one side out of their mouth and then out of the other. It makes no sense half the time. They'll say one thing about one group and then they'll end up doing the exact same thing. One example, as we'll see, is they make fun of these Christians. And mind you, they went and found some of the more less articulate people who had done a New Age to Christian conversion story on YouTube, which there is a massive growing number. And what they highlight is since 2020, there has been a massive influx of people leaving the New Age and converting to Christianity. And so, again, this is where they think, oh, there's problems in the world and these people just haven't dealt with their interior trauma. So then converting to Christianity is a trauma response. That's how it's articulated by them. And so Christianity then is this opposition to, we have the progressive left wing, and now we have this Christian right wing, as they claim. And so they that are articulating what they believe to be the middle path, the true middle path, which is all about astrology, meditation, yoga, inner breath work, inner work, working with your dark self, as they talk about your shadow work. And so they talk, all these Christians that, again, they're not the most articulate people in the world that they picked, but I'm sure good people. I'm not even trying to criticize whoever they picked, because we'll listen to some of the audios they're using as an example of how nonsensical these Christians are. Well, they'll use words like occult, and they're like, oh my gosh, these Christians don't even know what occult means. It means hidden, and they think it means demonic, or they think it means satanic. And then later, as we'll see later in the podcast, when they're talking about the Sam Smith Grammy performance, all of a sudden they use occult in the exact same way. How interesting. This is part of the problem here. You see, these people believe themselves because they know who Helena Blavatsky is, and they know about Eastern mysticism, and they know all about the New Age practices, that somehow they are a step superior to all these New Age people converting to Christianity. But as we'll see in COTEL fashion, we are going to then put our lens of analysis onto them, and we'll see that they're actually the dum-dums. They have no understanding of what they're talking about. They have no metaphysical basis for their paradigm, because they agree, oh yeah, evil exists. And then they'll say, yeah, all these New Age people converting to Christianity, it's probably just a demon. It's probably just a dark spirit that's appearing to them, because dark spirits can appear in all types of ways. What? But then, of course, that never happens to them. They'll even bring up Oswald Spangler. So for some of you guys, you may have saw my stream 2 streams ago. It was on Man and Technics. It's a pretty nice, pretty interesting book by the famous Oswald Spangler. He was most famous for his work on The Decline of the West, a 2-volume book I have down here. And in that stream, we talk about Oswald Spangler, and then we read through Man and Technics. Well, again, these ignoramuses, they are trying to use Oswald Spangler, The Decline of the West, and his theoretical framework to talk about Christianity as the decline of the West, and these new, what they call neo-Christian dogmatic converts, as part of a term that he uses in The Decline of the West. He calls it second religiosity, or second religiousness. And what it's talking about for him, and if you'd like to hear more about Oswald Spangler, go to my other stream on Man and Technics. That was 2 streams ago. But Oswald Spangler had a concept that, again, there's different types of civilizations. Civilizations are beings themselves. Western civilization is what he called a Faustian process, and that it's all about progress and knowledge, and it's about self-empowerment, which he thought, again, at the end of World War I, really before World War II. We're talking about 1930, 31 is when he wrote Man and Technics. It was basically all over. The game was over. The West was going to fall, and it was going to fall due to materialism, and it was going to fall due to many of its presuppositions. Well, these, again, dum-dums don't even realize that Eastern Orthodox Christianity, the Christianity of the first millennium, isn't even embedded in his Faustian civilization. That's part of the Magian civilization and Oswald Spangler's dividing up, because he articulates that Western Christianity, due to scholasticism, has a different theology than that of Eastern Orthodoxy. So Oswald Spangler actually knew more about what he was talking about than these people who are, again, going to try to talk that it's these people converting to Christianity that are part of this second religiousness. But what defines second religiosity, according to Oswald Spangler? A lack of materialism and a full emphasis on your interior self. That sounds more like the New Age. And so that's what we're going to see throughout this podcast. These New Agers are talking about how the Christians project themselves. So, oh my gosh, they call it outrage porn when the Christians watch Sam Smith and his, satanic Grammy performance. This is outrage porn for these people so that they can be holier than thou. And and all this nonsense. But again, we'll get into all this stuff. So again, it's going to be a fun, relaxing stream. We're going to have a lot of giggles. We're going to have a lot of fun. If you have a drink, if you got some red wine, some white wine, a couple fingers of whiskey, a nice beer, grab it, relax. We're going to have a good time. So guys, please smash that like if you can. And if you would like to support the stream, please send in a super chat using the Streamlabs link, or if you prefer YouTube, you can do that as well. So here's some of the high points, again, we're going to be watching out for. They talk about the conversion to Christianity as a trauma response, and that Christians self-project onto the world because these New Agers who are converting to Christianity haven't done their shadow work, and therefore they're then projecting the trauma on themselves, i.e., the Sam Smith Grammy performance, onto the world. That's what they're doing. Okay. Dogmatic neo-Christian revival is dangerous for civilization because these people think they're holier than thou, and they believe that Jesus Christ is the only way. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? They also say that evil exists, interestingly enough, for these New Agers. Evil does exist. Don't get the jibby jab. And therefore, because evil exists, it's actually confusing all these former New Agers to convert to Christianity. It's actually part of a demonic, emanation, that they're dealing with demons, and they think that it's Jesus because they're just so dumb and they don't realize. Again, I talked about Spangler, Oswald Spangler, and the second religiosity. And then they talk about how Christians take the Bible too literally. Don't they? They don't understand what esoteric symbolism is. Well, esoteric symbolism, and if you want to get into archetypal understandings, again, this is where you're going to listen to the woman speak, and gosh, is she a little bit of annoyance. Just, again, the inability, the sophistication in one articulates themselves. I would be embarrassed to sit there and try to bash people and also yammer on about astrology and how, well, I'm not sure if we're out of the age of Pisces yet. This guy, David, whoever, nobody really cares. He's an astrologer. He says it happened then. And this person says, maybe we're in the age of Aquarius. Shut up. Like these people, it's a lack of intellectualism, and yet it's filled with the spirit of arrogance. Even though, again, there's many topics we would agree on. So I was looking at some of their content, and they're talking about, well, how do you spread the red pill for other New Agers? So again, this YouTube channel and the podcast that we're going to be listening to, it's a little bit different than some of the other New Agers. They perceive themselves as a little bit more sophisticated because their whole symbolism for what they do, it's called, what do they call themselves? It's the veil of reality. And so their whole metaphor is about the matrix, the matrix, the matrix, the matrix. Okay, we got the matrix. And so because we're in the matrix, then that's what the red pill means. The red pill means this realizing that we're in the matrix, and they then view that the Christians, the people who are converting to Christianity, they're really taking the blue pill, because if you want to take the red pill, well, then you'd subscribe to their YouTube channel and you'd listen to their podcast, and you'd do your downward dog, and you would make sure you do your astrology chart that day, and then you would actually know what's going on, of course. So that's what we're getting ready to dive into. Now, one of the things I wanted to say before we even start is that I have a whole stream talking about not just the New Agers converting to Christianity, but more specifically, psychonauts and New Agers converting to Orthodoxy. Because as you guys here realize, Orthodoxy is not the same thing of general American Christianity, and these people don't know the difference. So they think there's basically American Protestantism, and this guy's German, so German Protestant, and then there's Catholicism. And all that's just one big hodgepodge called Christianity. They have no idea, again, they have no idea about church history. And so one of the things that I just wanted to say before we get started here listening to their podcast is Orthodox Christianity is called the mystical church. It's the mystical form of Christianity, and it is different. And I just wanted to highlight a few ways in which Orthodoxy is different, and why Orthodoxy is receiving so many people, so many serious seekers, as I would describe, because if you're just a superficial seeker, well, then you would just be in your rock band church. If you're a little bit of a deeper seeker, really pushing, learning church history, wanting to connect more dots, maybe then it's Catholicism or Orthodoxy, and then a little bit deeper, and then eventually most of us have become Orthodox. The Western form of Christianity doesn't have a doctrine known as theosis. And so in Eastern Orthodoxy, the beginning of our atonement theology begins with the idea that the Logos, the second person of the Holy Trinity, which pre-exists creation itself, was always going to incarnate as a man within space and time. Why? To fuse human nature, divine nature into a single person so that then all created persons, meaning Adam and Eve and everybody from that point afterwards, whether we fell or not, according to St. Maximus the Confessor, the Logos was going to incarnate so that we can become gods by grace, by participating with the uncreated energies of God. And so within the New Age and the mysticism, there's always talking about divination becoming gods. And again, we see Orthodoxy, check, has that attribute in regards to its spirituality. Now, I'm not going to go through all of Orthodoxy, but I just want to highlight why Orthodoxy, compared to other aspects of Christianity, is so much more conducive to people coming from a New Age or occult background. So divination. Yeah, we don't self-divinize. We divinize by submitting to the Holy Trinity and following in the way of Christ. But that attribute, the idea that we do become gods by grace, part of Orthodoxy. Check. Next one, an energetic reality, vibes, energies, this type of thing. New Agers always want to talk about vibes and energies, right? Okay, well, that's the basis of our theology. Ask somebody, do we directly engage with God? Do we directly engage with God? Orthodoxy says with an emphatic yes, absolutely, through the uncreated energies of God, and therefore all of creation is in fact a vibratory, energetic reality. But the only thing that exists is God's energies. Truth, love, logic, reason, life, mercy, compassion, honor, glory. These things are all things we can't touch, but we know are more real than the things we can touch. And this gets into this energetic, energy essence distinction. We don't need to dive into all that, but the energetic reality of Orthodox Christianity. So energies within the New Age, check. Next one, sacred patterns. This is one of the things that I liked the most when I was in the New Age and the psychedelics was all the sacred patterns. If you ever look up visionary art is a sort of blending of New Age and psychedelic art. And I'll tell you, the colors, the sacred geometry, the fractal patterns. I love this stuff. I was enamored with this stuff when I was back into that. And that's partly why Church of the Eternal Logos, I like to use a lot of vibrant colors. I like colors. And so one of the things I love about Orthodoxy is how colorful it is within the iconography and the expression of Christ's truth. But sacred patterns, okay, for all these New Agers, do they have a basis for sacred patterns? Where does the sacred patterns exist? They exist in the Logos for us Christians. So as an Orthodox Christian, of course, the Logos, Plato talked about how archetypes, the forms, the ideal forms, they're all rooted in the Logos. So whether you're talking about Fibonacci, whether you're talking about pi and phi, whether you're talking about, the flower of life, whether you're talking about Mandelbrot fractals themselves, it's all rooted in the Logos, which is the second person, which is the mediator between us and the Godhead, which is Jesus Christ. So again, check. Orthodoxy. Personhood. People take psychedelics or get into the New Age. They, don't you realize we're all one, bro? We're all one. We're all one consciousness. Okay. Christianity is already articulating this reality, except you don't have to destroy the idea that you are who you are. So you're John Doe. New Age psychedelic says, bro, John Doe's an illusion. That's not who you are, man. You're the cosmic God, bro. You're the universe experiencing itself right now, bro. Okay, therefore, that presupposition is that who you are, your personhood, is actually an illusion called Maya, whatever this stuff is, ego. Well, an Orthodox Christianity would say, no, it's not an illusion. Me being David Patrick Harry, you being John Doe, you being whoever you are, that is a special identity of being made in the image of God, and that through that ability to choose through your free will, you can then become divinized by participating in God. So we don't annihilate our personhood. we redirect our personhood in accordance with the personhood of the Holy Trinity. So again, check. Orthodoxy then also has this attribute that is so common to the New Age. Another one, archetypes. I'm talking the Jungian archetypes, right? Not just mathematical, fractal, sacred patterns, but they want to get into, oh, well, don't you realize, have you ever, and then what she always says, haven't you ever, what does she call him? Jung or something? I forget. Anyways, you know, haven't you ever read Jung? Haven't you ever read about the archetypes and the father archetype and the mother archetype? Okay, if those exist, where do they exist? Why are they true? Are they, again, back into the logos, back into the mind of God, back into a Christian paradigm? But for these New Agers, where are archetypes? Well, they're in your brain, bro. They're in your collective psyche, dude. Okay, so let me get this right. If I'm a New Ager and I believe in the Big Bang, and I also believe in Darwinian Wallace theory of evolution, therefore all of materiality is continually in flux and continually evolving and continually changing, and you're trying to tell me then that the continual changing of the material world has given rise to myself today, along with all of collective humanity, and that our then collective psyches are the objective basis for these archetypal patterns that you say are unchanging? Well, how could constantly changing creation or life forms, due to this theory, how could they in their minds connect with something that's unchanging? Those archetypes within themselves also be changing based on the reflection of the way we live lives, and therefore androgyny and all these different things, those are going to become incredible archetypes. Aha, that's exactly what we're seeing. No, archetypes are not rooted in some collective unconscious of ourselves that we as human beings have come up with. Archetypes are real. Jung was onto a reality, but again, it's rooted in a divine mind, a pre-existent mind of creation. Creation itself is built on archetypes. And that's why the Theotokos is the archetype of the Great Mother. The Christ is the fulfillment of all archetypes. Even as Jordan Peterson or Jonathan Pageau said, it's a limit story. It's a limit story. And then the last one, New Agers, psychedelic people, sacred communion. Sacred communion. It's all about sacred communion. Well, how do you commune? I go to orgies. Oh, okay. How do you commune? Oh, well, I go to ayahuasca ceremonies in South America. Okay, how do you commune? I do yoga and breath work. That's how. Okay. How do you know in all those experiences that you're communing with the same entity? Well, you don't, clearly. And that's part of the failings of that worldview. In Orthodox Christianity, we do have a sacred communion, and that is in the Eucharist itself. That is within a ritualistic practice given to us by the incarnate God, Jesus Christ, with the apostles, and therefore has been continually practiced from that day forward as a acting out a ritualistic mystery in which we commune with God directly, but in a rational way, as we say in liturgy. It is the body and blood through the mystery of the Holy Spirit, but at the same time, it's a rational, bloodless sacrifice, as we say in liturgy. Well, I thought it's the body and blood. It is. But if I dip my finger in the chalice, does that mean I have blood on my finger? No. It's through a mystery. It's through the mystery of the Holy Spirit. It's a rational, bloodless sacrifice, as the priest always says in the liturgical service. So Orthodoxy then has sacred communion outside of the ways in which these New Agers want to then claim that it is. So with all that being said, I just wanted to lay that out before we then get right into this podcast. So before we do, just want to make a few quick announcements. Guys, please smash that like for everybody who's here. I'd greatly appreciate that. Also, if anybody would like to support my work, one of the best ways you can is to become a website member. And I have 3 different memberships. And if you would like to become a website member, you can do so with this link right here. I would greatly appreciate that. We have a exclusive video library. We also then have a fitness membership. And we also have then a Logos premium membership, which includes all the memberships above plus some. If you would like to support my work, please become a premium member. I would love that. Also, if you would like to sign up for a one-on-one session, you can do so with this link right here. I would greatly appreciate that. If you would like to talk privately about a topic, about goal setting, about your life, about orthodoxy, about world religions, about mysticism, whatever it is, the history of Western magic, we can do that in a private one-on-one setting. And then also, I want to mention that we are then going to finish up my last few premium video sponsorships. If you guys have a topic you would love for me to dive into and present here on the channel, please sign up for a video sponsorship. Those are some of my favorite videos to do. You guys come up with phenomenal topics that I wouldn't generally think of, and I love doing the work. I love diving in, and I love presenting those. So if you have a topic that you would like to sponsor, that is another phenomenal way you can sponsor my work, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. All right, with all that being said, now let's just get into today's topic. And so without further ado, let me show you what we are looking at today. So first things first, this is our gentleman today, Bernhard Gunther. He is a German, and he has the channel Veil of Reality. And it's not the biggest YouTube channel in the world, like 21,000 or whatnot. He did actually then have a documentary. So he has a documentary called Love, Reality, and the Time of Transition. I wonder what that could be about. Oh, 2011, right before 2012. Oh, yeah, Pisces, Aquarius. Yep, that's exactly what it's about. So it's the idea about the changing of the ages, right, within the New Age worldview. And so the video sheds light onto the nature of love, relationships, the New Age movement, reality creation, quantum physics, objectivity versus subjectivity, and how it all relates to the topics of conspiracy theories, psychopathy, and the importance of holistic self-work. Oh, okay, great. And so he has this this website, Piercing the Veil of Reality, and it seems like they have quite a prominent podcast, and they have many website members that that keep this operation afloat. And so this is Bernhard Gunther, and so we're just going to be listening to their most recent podcast, which is right here. Again, the New Age to Dogmatic Christian Pipeline. The New Age to Dogmatic Christian Pipeline, of which obviously you can suspect they were a bit antagonistic towards. And so I'm going to pause. Again, if you have a drink, if you're just going to relax, grab yourself a wine, a beer, 2 fingers of whiskey, whatever it may be. We're going to move through the next 54 minutes, which are, again, we're going to be stopping consistently, but we're going to reflect on this New Age podcast, as I opened up earlier, presents itself as a more reasonable New Age than other New Agers. Why? Well, they're against the vaccine. Again, as you can see right down here, this is the Koof stabbies, consequences on the soul. So they're against the stabbies. Okay, great. The AI transhuman occult trap and the way out. Okay, so they're against some of the transhumanist agenda at hand. Okay, interesting. Why did so many spiritual leaders fall for the PSYOP? So you can see we may have actually quite a bit overlap in regards to some of the things that are happening at culture with these people. However, they view us as the extreme right wing. They view the progressive left as the extreme left wing. And therefore us, Orthodox Christians, traditional Christians, and the progressive left, they're basically all the same. And so they then believe they are the middle path. So that's why I thought this podcast was actually the perfect podcast to do analysis of, because they aren't just the typical dumb New Agers, although, again, we're going to listen to them and critique them, so not exactly highfalutin IQ activity here. But anyways, so here we go. I have it already queued up. It's at 4:45 from the get-go. I have it queued up. This is right when the podcast begins. A lot of like advertisement and just promoting like what they're doing for the first 4 minutes. So here we go.
Thanks for great introduction. We have a lot to cover. That's a big topic. I already posted about this on Facebook. A lot of people are, curious about what we're going to talk about because it's a big thing. And just on a side note, because I noticed a trend happening maybe a couple of years ago, just a little bit, but then
it started in 2020.
2020, interesting. Around the same time the craziness started. It's almost like an impulse to seek something higher as well. We will talk about that. But not until we started research for this podcast, especially you started researching on TikTok, YouTube, there are thousands of videos with hundreds and thousands of likes and views and shares of these people sharing. And it's interesting. They all sounded quote unquote the same. Like they have, sound almost a bit like a hive mind in what the ways they claim. But the issue which we're going to get into is their definition of New Age, their definition of occult, and all of these kind of things. So
the first thing I want to begin with is that because all these Christians are describing a similar experience from moving to the New Age to Christianity, it must be a hive mind? Huh? What if it's a real phenomenon? What if it's a real experiential reality? It doesn't necessitate some sort of hallucinatory hive mind at all. And also, one of the things I want to do, guys, is I want to move through our super chats while we do streams so that you guys feel a little bit more engaged and you guys can throw in comments while we're going through the podcast, and I'll get to them right away. So I want to give a couple quick shout outs in the super chats. We got one from Rigovich, throws in £2. Thank you so much, Rigovich. No comment. Adam458 threw in $25 and says, became a member to your website a few weeks ago. Love it. Keep it up, brother. God bless. Well, thank you so much, Adam458. I truly do appreciate it. Thanks for becoming a member, brother. God bless you. And then Amptown1, one of our good sisters, throws in $3, says, thanks for the one-on-one Sunday wherein you taught me the difference between right and left. Well, you know, left and right can be a little confusing, so thank you so much, Amptown. Glad you were there, and it was a lot of fun. Again, it's great to have you at the parish. So I just wanted to say those. We're going to continue on here, but again, throw in your super chats. If you throw one in, you have a direct comment on where we're at in the podcast, I'm going to get to it as we move through. So it's going to be a lot more of a fun, relaxed stream. So here we go.
So
with that being said, let's play some of the clips, no?
Yeah, let's play a clip. One of the clips where just, I guess, references something that you said, actually. So here's the first clip. This is from someone on TikTok. And by the way, I'm going to be sharing most of these anonymously. I also have stories that people submitted to me on Instagram. If I have a time I'm going to share them. Okay. All this is going to be anonymous. So here's one of the clips.
I chose to leave the New Age to follow the Lord. So if you don't know what the New Age is, it's basically the occult. The occult is mystical practices. If you Google it, it says like mystical practices, aka witchcraft, aka everything that's really popular in the world, such as zodiac sign, meditation, manifestation, yoga, all that. Not good stuff. I was about to say good stuff. I was like, not good stuff.
Okay, so that's
so the New Age is basically your occult, basically meditations you mentioned.
Yeah, yoga. It doesn't make, like, if you don't know what the New Age is, it's the occult. And what is the occult? She said mystical practices. I don't know. Google it. So already, I'm sorry, like right off the bat, this is not a very well constructed argument, to say it nicely. And also, I'm sorry, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. What is the occult? Mystical practices. I don't know. It says on Google. And by the way, I'm pointing this out because this is par for the course when I go down this New Age to Christian rabbit hole.
Yeah, this is not an exception. This is like...
This is not an exception. This is the rule, basically.
This is the rule, that kind of video. Yeah.
So any thoughts about that, or should I go to the next clip?
Well, let's do just another one, and let's talk.
Okay, so again, they're mocking this woman who sounded like she was doing something, and it could have been a TikTok, it could have been an Instagram video. We don't know exactly what the video was because this is a podcast, but they're mocking her because she said, I left the New Age. If you're not familiar with the New Age, it's filled with the occult. Okay, so what does the occult mean? Hidden. Okay, and so they're gonna try to zing one of the Christians. Oh, you don't even know what it means. It means hidden. Yeah, okay. We know it means hidden. Great. And so hidden practices like divination, that would include astrology, which is really what they're trying to articulate. The power of manifestation, another form of divination, divinatory practices. Meditation. Well, meditation includes a bunch of things. One, they're going to go into and mock these Christians. Oh my God, they think the meditation is New Age. Can you believe that? Have they never heard of Buddhism? Well, again, meditation is a lot of different things for different people. Zen meditation isn't the same thing of meditative practices for visionary experiences within Tantric Tibetan Buddhism. So what do you mean by meditation? Meditation can be a lot of different things. Meditation can be continually focusing on one's desire. Meditation could be trying to just listen to sort of, the happenstance of reality. So noises, animals, the breeze. Meditation could be trying to drown out one's senses. Meditation can be a lot of different things. And meditation or prayer, I'm Christian, we do prayer, but you can also pray to certain entities, and we would say, well, that wouldn't be good. So that, oh my God, this Christian says prayer's stupid because you can pray to certain entities. What a dumb argument. You see, these people think they're intelligent, and it's it's retarded.
I really want people to know who maybe haven't seen this happening. I want them to see some examples, because a lot of these examples, they're pretty much saying basically the same thing. It's literally almost like some force is like saying in their ear the same thing or something, or they're just copying each other. Humans tend to mimic. Okay, so here's another good one where he talks about the New Age.
I'm going to show you guys how New Age spirituality is actually a satanic movement. This woman, Helena Blavatsky, was actually the founder of this New Age spirituality movement. You may be wondering, what is the New Age spirituality movement? This movement believes in things such as astrology. They believe in things like reincarnation, and they've even developed the practice of yoga in order to reach their higher self.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so reincarnation is the New Age. That's quite a claim.
And he said the New Age...
Is that what he said? Or did he say New Agers believe in reincarnation? Because I thought I heard the guy just say that New Age believe in reincarnation and they're listing different practices they believe. Did he say it's the same thing? I didn't hear that.
Yoga. Yeah. So imagine how this is also a little bit ignorant, to say the least, because you could have just Googled yoga and took 2 seconds and found out that the New Age, may be interested. People who are into New Age stuff may also be into yoga, but to say that they invented yoga is explicitly not true. Yeah. And so these are the untruths or lies or deceptions or delusions that we're actually seeing in these movements. So we're actually going to talk about it.
Did he say they invented yoga? Let's go back. Let's go back to the guy that they're mocking. I didn't hear him say New Agers invented yoga. I didn't hear that. Let's see.
Yoga and Googled yoga.
Spirituality movement. You may be wondering, what is the New Age spirituality movement? This movement believes in things such as astrology. They believe in things like reincarnation, and they've even developed the practice of yoga in order to reach their higher self.
So he didn't say they create, he said they denote. So they utilize the practice of yoga to reach their higher. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. That's part of how one, again, in this worldview, would activate their Kundalini energy at the base of the spine to then build up that serpentine energy all the way to the crown chakra, so that then, like semen blasting out of the crown of Shiva, they could become fully illuminated by the sublimation of their sexual energies. That's what a tantric yoga. And so he said they denote yoga as a way to reach their higher selves. That's not false.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so reincarnation is the New Age. That's quite a claim.
And he said the New Age invented yoga. Yeah. So imagine how this is also a little bit ignorant, to say the least, because you could have just Googled yoga and took 2 seconds and found out that the New Age, may be interested. People who are into New Age stuff may also be into yoga. But to say that they invented yoga is explicitly not true. Yeah. And so these are the untruths or lies or deceptions or delusions that we're actually seeing in these movements. So we're actually going to talk about in a moment, what is the New Age, what is the occult, etc. Because it is mixing truth with lies. Obviously, Blavatsky, a lot of people know about her. I think she was also into Satanism at one point. I don't know. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But this is this is kind of what they're presenting as an argument, that meditation, that yoga, that astrology is all part of the New Age.
Which it absolutely is. It doesn't mean that it's a one-to-one equivalence. It doesn't mean the entire practice of yoga throughout the history of India is equal to the New Age. And this is where these people, again, they're not academics. And so if you were an academic, then they would probably be familiar with this book right here, New Age Religion and Western Culture, Esotericism in the Mirror of Secular Light. Wouter Hanegraaff is basically one of the leading scholars, if not the leading scholar within the field of Western esotericism. And this was his dissertation project, basically a compendium of all these different things regarding to the New Age world, because New Age religion, New Age spirituality isn't just one singular thing. There's all types of stuff. And so, again, if you wanted to take an academic approach, well, then you would use this book. You wouldn't just say the nonsense that these people are spouting as a defense against the New Age against these Christians.
Which is just not true. It's been around for thousands of years, even before that, and it belongs to other cultures and traditions. Meditation, for example, that's not the New Age. Like, did no one ever teach you about Buddhism? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, beyond Buddhism even.
Yeah.
So the issue right off the bat is the issues of definitions and really like fallacies all across the board. And really understanding two ideas. What is the New Age and what is the occult? Because basically what they're doing, they're throwing anything into the quote-unquote umbrella of the New Age occult, what does not, in their view, adhere to a Christian belief.
Yes.
So any spiritual practice, any spiritual belief you have, anything, whatever it may be, that is not in their perception, in their even distorted view of the Bible itself, that's a whole topic in itself, right? Isn't false idol, is satanic, is occult, is demonic, is New Age.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of issues with that. Having said that, we have talked about it, and I want to really let's go briefly in an idea what is the New Age, right? Because we had an episode actually exactly about that called the New Age Deception and Spiritual Bypassing a couple of years ago, episode 7. Go look it up in our podcast. You can listen to it. And in that podcast, I'm going to discuss briefly through it what I said in that podcast already, like a couple of years ago. As a matter of fact, I also created a documentary, a film over 10 years ago called Love, Reality, the Time of Transition, where I also exposed the New Age deception and ridiculous New Age beliefs. So truth is mixed with lies. So there's definitely some New Age nonsense out there as well. So, but it's not that black and white as these converted Christians preach about. So, with what the guy actually said, yeah, he's actually correct in the last, that the so-called quote-unquote New Age started in the late 19th century with the Theosophical Society led by Helena Blavatsky, right? And basically, on general sense, the intention was fusing the essence of all religion into a one-world religion, right? We can even go a conspiracy about it. That's part of the New World Order. They want to have a one-world religion, all of that under this umbrella of New Age. Right, so the issue of this, then the teachings in the quote New Age become very oversimplified by a pick and choose, and they take just the exoteric, superficial, aspects of different practices into this New Age umbrella, and people start to make up their own stuff, and that's where the trouble kicks in.
Yeah,
right, absolutely. And then you see how the New Age has then also infiltrated or has developed over the years in the 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s. You can see that the hippie movement, the so-called counterculture, which also was partly created by the CIA, with the psychedelic movement as well, ties into that. The way that works, social engineering.
And so, again, you can see how these New Age, that's why this podcast specifically brands itself as, not your typical New Age worldview. So they believe themselves to be a little bit more sophisticated, more nuanced. So you've already seen they recognize a new world order agenda. They recognize, as I said, the COOF, transhumanism. They recognize that the CIA and the intelligence agencies have infiltrated a lot of things. But if you go back to him talking about Helena Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society building a syncretic religion, yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. But what he said, the problem is all these people then want to bring in what they think is right and not what it is actually. So, hold on, back up, bud. You just said that the Theosophical Society wanted to create a one-world religion that is syncretic with all the world religions, and that you could see how it's part of the New World Order. But then literally 2 sentences later, you say, well, the problem is not with that. It's with that people want to believe whatever they want to believe and insert it into the New Age. What? You just again spoke out of both sides of your mouth.
With these trends, they hijack like a natural impulse, like the 60s and 70s, breaking free from the establishment, but then they, pump in the drugs, people just get hooked on just, their own love and light, or drop in tune on, turn out, the Timothy Leary slogan, or make love, not war, to distract them from whatever's happening in society. And it goes deeper into then even nowadays, right? With festival culture of Burning Man, lightning in the bottle, symbiosis, and all of that drug-infused festival culture as well. And also, especially, that's really the New Age part. It started really big in the 80s as well, 90s, and also recently. UFO religions, cults, channeled material, the Galactic Federation of Light, aliens are here to save us, and take out the Cabal, Illuminati, all kinds of questionable stuff. So yeah, that's definitely the New Age. But it is really hard to define what the New Age is. It's not like an organization. People say, I was in the New Age. I was like as if you were part of an organization.
Let me correct that, because the important correction and distinction is I was participating in practices that I would deem to be New Age. That would be the correction. And then we could have a conversation. But if you say you're in the New Age right off the bat, it doesn't make sense, because what were you in? It doesn't.
Well, what are you guys in? So you need to be in a specific New Age cult to articulate yourself as being once part of the New Age, or as most rational people would suspect, I believed and practiced a lot of the practices and beliefs that are consistent with people who identify as part of the New Age. Therefore, I was in the New Age. Okay, that sounds rational and logical. That they say, no, oh my gosh. Well, what tradition of the New Age were you in? Well, again, just look in this book. Reincarnation, psychoactive substances, as they said, ideas about aliens, off-planet intelligences, the Pleiadians, all this, that's all part of the New Age. The law of manifestation and manifesting your highest, that's all part of the New Age. So if somebody practiced any of those stuff and they then bought into that general reality, the worldview that we're going to move into the age of Aquarius, where everything's going to become more utopian, which is exactly what they're going to articulate. So mind you, remember all this stuff that they're saying. They're saying, oh, this is all the stuff that the New Age isn't. And then as we get towards the end of the podcast, they'll start explaining what they actually believe, which is, again, astrology, body work, breath work, this understanding of deep religious symbolism, perennialism. All the religions lead to the same place, which is an epistemic problem. Anybody who has a philosophical background wouldn't believe in perennialism. It's nonsense. But it's like, okay, so I don't even get what your point is. You can't claim you're the New Age unless you're part of a New Age cult. What? I don't even get it.
But if you're practicing New Age practices, then we can talk about the practices you were engaging in and what you were potentially doing. I think that there's potential that maybe people were engaging in black magic. Yeah. So
no, I think this is really important to point out, because a lot of people nowadays they throw around this word New Age, very generalized, even project their own meaning into it and put all kinds of practices and ideas, beliefs, and that have nothing to do with the New Age, like ancient practices like meditation, or and all these kind of things. Yoga, which literally means union with the divine.
So yoga and meditation have nothing to do with New Age practices and New Age spiritual beliefs? Really? Because again, if you just look into it, New Ageism is the amalgamation of many ancient practices, believing that, again, we've sort of gone through these different astrological periods, these different ages through time. And so what we're getting ready to do is move out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. And don't you know, Jesus was saying that. So that's why he said, follow the water bearer. And so we're getting ready to move into the age of Aquarius, which again, they'll start to argue or debate, are we there? Are we about to be? We're still in Pisces. And so we move into the age of Aquarius, where we're going to have a sort of spiritual utopia. So New Ageism, as a general paradigm of spirituality, believes that you practice all these different practices from all these different world religions, especially in the pursuit of self-divinization, self-knowledge, self-exploration, to acquire one's own power, one's own gnosis, one's own spiritual knowledge, and that you can then be armed as you move into the utopian age of Aquarius. That's what the New Age is. That's what it's a new age for. We're moving into the New Age, and you do that through a lot of these ancient practices. So I don't even get what they're trying to say is that, meditation, yoga, it does have stuff to do with the New. What are you talking about? And
so forth has nothing to do with the New Age. Now, let's just want to go over from our point of view, which I mentioned in this older podcast. What are the common New Age beliefs? Because I talk about New Age beliefs and traps as well. So the idea of that you create your own reality in terms of solipsism, that only I exist and I have full control over my reality. It's truth mixed with lies. There's truth to the idea of reality creation, but it's not as simple as this oversimplified and distorted idea of the law of attraction.
Yeah, I think the distinction is, and this is because one thing they talk about, manifestation is the New Age, law of attraction is the New Age, is that you are a participatory force in the cosmic forces. You have a participation in it. You don't have dominion over reality, but you get to be a player in that. And I think that's the key difference, is they're literally basically being like, it's all under the will of some external God outside of me, and I don't have any control. And it's like, that's a slavery mentality too.
Yeah. It's
I love how, again, when they refer to God, it's always going to be the cosmos or this really abstract concept. It's never going to... They even actually mock the idea of a personal God. We got 2 more super chats that came in. Shout out to Storm the Cat that threw in $5 and says, I know lots of people like this. They are in red-pilled in some conspiracies such as the jabs and the liberal propaganda and so on, but they still are anti-Christian. Lots of them get into Nordic paganism. And that's a great, great point. I do too know so many people that they can't let go of the pride of the New Age and like their pride. Because again, if you're going to then follow Christ, you have to change your ways in many different ways. And if it's real, what does that mean? And what does that mean that you have to do? A lot of people don't want to deal with that. So Storm the Cat, I totally agree. Again, shout out to Storm the Cat. He says, I know a lot of people like these people, the ones we're listening to. They are in red-pilled in some conspiracies, such as the jabs and the liberal propaganda and so on, but they are still anti-Christian, and a lot of them get into Nordic paganism. And then our very busy Dr. Vagisil throws in $1 and says, New Agers are seeker-sensitive Pentecostals who had too much weed. Change my mind. I'm not going to change your mind.
Way more nuanced, right? There's divine will, all of that, but they also externalize God. They project human qualities into God and all of that.
Yeah.
What other New Age beliefs? That there's no objective truth, just my or your truth, just focus on the positive, avoid the negative, even to the point that there is no evil at all, or abusing spiritual higher truths, which ties into spiritual bypassing. We are all one, hence we are all the same, which is not true. Anger is bad, never resist, just turn the other cheek. Ironically, that's also kind of from Christian belief ties into that. Just feel good, do whatever you feel like doing. It makes you feel good, no discernment, like mistaking hedonism for spirituality, right? Lack of critical thinking, the mind is bad, that kind of thing. Just think of your heart. Blind or idiot compassion. And definitely, distortion of astrology and divination has been also very become distorted in the New Age. We know this, right?
Yeah.
The big one is here, I pointed out before, that the space brothers, aliens are here to save us. Aliens, UFO cults, channeling, the Galactic Federation of Light, and all kinds of similar stuff. Mistaking emotional high for love, which is kind of like, you can see in the Christian movement as well. Distorted twin flame concepts, full moon ceremonies worship, distorted Wicca and pagan practices, channeling and calling and spirits, guides, angels, archangels can create trap of agreements. That's actually one of the Christian thing they have, there's some truth to it, but it's so extremely black and white thinking.
So I love how he criticized the New Age because it kind of picks whatever it wants from all the different spiritualities, world religions, and yet they do exactly what he just criticized. And I love how, again, we're going to hear them talk about evil, good and evil. Okay, Bernard, where does it come from, bub? Where does evil come from? He talks about, there are Satanists. What are the Satanists doing, and what are you, an idiot, dude? Like, if you believe in Satanism, and really what they would come to, evil is just the energy of hate, and love is the energy that brings things together, and so you just have to love things, and if you hate things, that's what's evil. If you want to have power over people, that's what's evil. It was shout out to Rebecca Burner, throws in $5 and says, wow, praise God for this stream. Well, thank you very much, Rebecca. God bless you. Before I came to Christ, I was a huge fan of Bernard and his work. I shared many of his beliefs and thought, and and thought I was spiritually sophisticated. So grateful for Orthodoxy and to the Lord for giving me discernment. Thank you. Well, thank you, Rebecca, and glory to God that you have discernment and you found your way, because that's what is so mind-blowing to me, because I also at one point was part of this stuff. Now, it would have been probably 6-7 years ago at this point, but I listen to this stuff and I'm thinking, where is the depth? Where is the sophistication? Where is the sort of intellectual rigor that, that I look for now? And when I hear somebody, or when I hear priests, and when I hear saints, or when I read saints, things hit me in a different way now. When I listen to these New Agers, it's like, where is the depth? It sounds like it's just a bunch of word jargon. It's nonsense.
Goddess priestess talk and all of that, and distorted tantric teachings, with over focus on sexuality and all of that kind of thing. So this is in a nutshell the New Age beliefs, right? Which can mostly just simply result in spiritual bypassing, right?
Yeah.
And doesn't get you like right away possessed with a demon.
So but this is the argument that people are basically saying. I'll just point that out. So basically people are saying, I was part of the New Age, and then I felt bad. I went through a dark night of the soul. Some have even been claiming that they've been possessed by a demon, and then I found God and everything was okay. Yeah. And for anyone...
And glory to God for all those people, because once you do find the living God, the Holy Trinity, everything is okay. So God bless all these people who they're mocking, because I'm sure most of them are Protestants and Catholics.
Lived a human life. It's not that you just find something, you just find Jesus and all of a sudden you're in heaven and life is okay. Like, I've had very profound spiritual experiences, and my work is actually to anchor the love of God within my own heart so that my, conditioned ego personality can be a clearer expression of the divine. You don't get to just be like, I just found Jesus and I'm saved and now I'm going to heaven. Like, this is one of the biggest spiritual bypasses. And I had trouble understanding it, actually, when people said it. I was like, really? You just found Jesus and now you're saved and going to heaven and everyone else is going to hell and demonic? But that's actually what the belief is. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, but then the Christians will then definitely refute it. But I had experienced it. You don't know my experience, but we go into that as well.
No, I believe that if they really have a belief in God, they have a powerful experience. But I think that their human ego mind has basically distorted it into all sorts of...
No, but I'm talking about also occult forces posing as divine powers.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so basically what you're saying is that even these peak spiritual experiences could also be an occult force distorting.
Exactly. What they claim, the New Agers, that they make contact with alien beings, Archangel, Michael, Pleiadians, and all of that. These are, I'm going to talk more about it in the second hour. These are shapeshifters. They can also appear to your belief system. They can appear as a Jesus or as a Virgin Mary, just to appeal to where they want to trap you in.
Okay.
So that's the New Age. So again.
Okay, so let's just recap what we heard. The reason why these people are becoming Christian is because demons, or what he calls shapeshifters, are shape-shifting into the presentation of Christ, and therefore these people are renouncing the practices of the New Age because they're satanic and demonic and open them up to those forces, and therefore the demons are getting them to say these things? What? That's retarded. And again, Bernard and your lovely wife, how exactly would you know between a shapeshifter who's demonic and a shapeshifter who's benevolent? On what standard, again, in your New Age hodgepodgey worldview of prideful arrogance, are you allowed to differentiate and have discernment amongst these things? How exactly do you, especially, she said, I've had a lot of profound experiences, but it's these people, it's their egos. Because they're egos, they become Christian and they believe it's Jesus. What? Huh? Well, what is his wife's name? It's Laura. So Laura, how did you know that your profound mystical experiences contacting entities, how did you know they weren't the same shapeshifters that your husband Bernard was talking about? On what method? Did you ask him questions? Did you ask him, a question in which that you could verify, like we as Christians, is Christ Lord? like, how did you exactly come to know that? Oh, yeah. You don't, and you can't. You just talk and ramble.
Yeah.
Just to reference it again, you can go back to episode 7 where we definitely talked. There's definitely a New Age deception. There's a lot of erroneous beliefs and oversimplified spiritual practices and beliefs that tie literally into spiritual bypassing.
Yeah, the main thing with the New Age is it's like very questionable beliefs that actually lead to spiritual bypassing,
Correct.
basically.
Yeah.
And that is kind of an argument about kind of this New Age to dogmatic Christian pipeline that I agree with, is if they were really, quote unquote, in the New Age and engaging in these practices, so far from what I've seen, I've not seen one person being like, I was doing deep, sincere inner work on myself, and then I realized that Christ is away. That would be a different story, and I'm sure there's people out there. But a lot of people are being like, I was doing zodiac signs and meditation and law of attraction. It's like, already they're operating with the premise that they were engaging in a lot of spiritual bypassing friendly practices, and then they turn to Christ, basically.
Exactly. And I also
What? So these people weren't doing the deep work. That's why they converted to Christianity. But I'm sure there are some cases in which people were doing the deep work of Christianity. But then it's weird that they would say Christ is the only. What are you saying, lady? That, again, you see the self-pride. You see, they're not doing the deep shadow work like I am. I am really dealing with my inner self and my shadow self, and these people aren't. These people aren't doing it, and that's why they're coming to Christ, because they're delusional, because they're shapeshifters.
I want to point out, because I've been called a New Ager for being a body worker, massage therapist, and for listening to ambient electronic music. So, in a nutshell, also, yoga is not New Age. Meditation is not New Age. Astrology is not New Age, right? These are ancient practices that have existed way before this whole New Age corruption idea started in the late 19th century.
They existed before Christ, too.
They existed way before Christ. Yes, these practices have become distorted, can be used for spiritual bypassing, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
they existed before Christ, yet the people who believe in Christ believe Christ is God, and therefore the Logos, being God, existed before anything that could exist, because existence would designate that it's contingent and depends upon something that isn't contingent, that can always exist and never not exist, meaning God. So then Christians believe in a Trinitarian God, and the second person of that Trinity incarnated into space-time as Jesus of Nazareth, which is Jesus Christ, the unification of divinity and humanity. And so because something or some divinatory practice existed before Christ, therefore it's more true, and that's what they're going to get at with astrology. Well, astrology, guys, it's astrology.
Not that they in themselves are not New Age, let alone are they demonic or satanic.
Can I just play the last video from this guy actually about the rabbit hole? Because this is my favorite out of all that. This one also has like tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands.
Shout out to Dr. Vagisil, who throws in $3 and says, when more New Agers understand that discipline and obedience to God isn't burdensome, but more joyful than hedonistic self-worship, then the stronghold breaks. Amen to that. And then the next one from the new cooler Will Smith throws in $5 and says, I was not prepared for DPH's woman prattle voice. Well, hey, you got your money's worth in tonight's stream, the new cooler Will Smith. So God bless you and appreciate you for being here, Will Smith. Really do.
On YouTube as well, but here it is. So he's basically, the title is The New Age Movement Got Me Possessed by 30 Spirits.
30.
Yes.
All right, there you go.
So
to see 1111 everywhere, getting into Deepak Chopra, getting into Eckhart Tolle, Wayne Dyer, all those New Age authors, and I dove deep down the rabbit hole.
Okay, so
you went deep down the occult New Age rabbit hole with Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, and who was
Wayne Dyer. Yeah.
I didn't hear him say occult. I heard him say New Age, and Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, all those, they are New Age, and it's all about the law of manifestation. And I mean, they literally are in the New Age section. Like, what are you? These people are so damn prideful and ignorant. It's unreal.
So this is what their definition is. I'm working with the definition and what they've engaged with, because I'm actually trying to really, basically my view on it is similar to Carl Jung, which we'll talk about in the second hour, is there's a genuine religious impulse that has been suppressed in the materialistic society we live in. And the problem is if you suppress an impulse, it will show up later in a distorted form. And I feel that basically, this is my own personal theory on it, is that people started getting attracted to all these quote unquote new age practices because they were fun, they were novel, they were exotic, they were different. And they realized that they don't work. And the fact of the matter is that those alone are not going to help you. You need grounded psychological work as well. You need to understand yourself, your relationships. Like this is like, otherwise you're going to be set up for spiritual delusion. Yeah. So, what you're going to say something?
Yeah, we also need to define the word occult.
Yes. So define the word occult. Yeah.
Because people say, I was deep in the occult. I came out of the occult.
Yeah.
And like people throw around this word.
Yeah.
And I've said this many times before and also in my articles. I think most people who have no understanding of the word occult, like these neo-Christians, converted Christians, they literally equate most likely the word occult with evil, satanic, or demonic.
Yes.
Which is not what the word means or is defined as at all.
And first of all, this is a total, again, just oblivious to philosophy and paradigmatic presuppositions. Words mean, this is called the word concept fallacy, right? So he talked about all these Christians have all these fallacies. Bro, you're just committing the word concept. Words can have definitions, and we can agree upon those definitions. The etymology of the word occult means hidden. But then, they will do later in the podcast, use occult to mean satanic. Occult within a Christian paradigm, because we don't believe that spiritual truths are hidden, but Christ came to reveal, and therefore that's why he makes us from blind to gives us sight, so that we can then see the light, which he is the light, he is the truth, he is the way. And so our job is to proclaim exoterically truths. We don't believe in esoteric truths. This guy's a dum-dum. And so trying to say, oh my gosh, this is what occult means. Like, this is some profound, again, this is like anybody that's really into these, you don't know what occult means hidden, okay? And I'm sure many of these Christians did too when they said it. But as a Christian, occultic practices and occult beliefs are demonic and satanic from our worldview. That's how it works. That's our paradigm. So again, they cannot do an internal critique. And this is exactly what we saw with Owen Benjamin and Jim Bob. Owen didn't even know what an internal critique was. And that's the difference between, again, the apologetic levels within the orthosphere and all these other spiritual traditions. They don't even do the work and the time to look at the ways in which somebody views it within their own paradigm. And so we got a couple super chats. Shout out to Joseph Chase, throws in $3. And Joseph Chase says, thanks for this stream. Well, thank you, Joseph Chase, for the $3 super chat, brother. He says, the New Age came up in our Brotherhood meeting on Friday. I pointed them your way. Perfect timing. Hope to see you in Montana. Well, thank you so much, Joseph Chase. God bless you, brother. Thanks for promoting the stream. And I will be in Montana. Shout out to everybody who is going to be making Montanica in 2023. I will be there. In fact, I'll be the only non-clergy in 2023. Everybody else is going to be a deacon, a priest, or a bishop. And then you'll just have lowly old DPH laity there. But anyways, thank you so much, Joseph Chase. I will see you in Montana, brother. And then another super chat came in from Mark. He throws in $5 and says, I watched the Atlanta stream yesterday, and thanks to your struggles, I can now pronounce Gobekli Tepe. Well, thank you very much. I can too. It's funny how sometimes you get into, once you go live, sometimes all of a sudden you can't say something. So Gobekli Tepe, that was a good stream though. Thank you very much, Mark, for the $5 super chat. I do appreciate it. Okay, let's continue on here with occult meaning hidden.
The word occult simply means hidden. That's it, hidden, from Latin occultare. And to conceal, to hide. It means hidden. It is not evil nor good. It's completely neutral. It means hidden. So when people say, I was deep in the occult, it's like, are you playing peekaboo? You're hiding where you're hiding.
Yeah, basically translate to, I was deep in the hidden.
I was deep in the hidden.
No, if you were practicing black magic, white magic, whatever you would say, yeah, I was deep into the occult, meaning occult practices. That's just modern English. What are you talking about, you retards? Clearly, people can say, yeah, I was deep into the occult. Yeah, because you were deep into the occult practices, these hidden practices that you're talking about. What are you guys? Oh, my gosh.
You know, basically on that very level, right? Then occultism, yes, you know, these are practices involving, even I can go to the official definition from Britannica, occultism, various theories and practices involving in a belief and knowledge of use of supernatural forces or beings, yes, and practices dealing with the non-physical realm, absolutely, right? But that in itself is not evil. It's even says here, occult practices center on the presumed ability of the practitioner to manipulate natural laws for personal benefits on behalf of another. Such practices tend to be regarded as evil only when they also involve breaking moral laws and so forth. So
black magic.
Black magic.
No. If it means for personal desires, then it would depend on what the worldview is. And from a Christian worldview, we're not supposed to manifest our personal desires. We're supposed to submit to the will of God. And so even as the definition in Britannica on occultism, you see how, well, that means only black magic. No, black magic isn't the only one that manifests one's desires. And so all occult practices could be deemed satanic or Luciferian, if you want to use a more accurate spiritual term to describe the sort of understanding of self-enlightenment through the attaining of sort of gnosis from this point of view. But it's like, these people, you see how they speak from out of both sides of their mouth? They're so deceptive with their words. Either they're just low IQ or they're deliberately deceptive. It's hard to tell.
Absolutely. That occultists, that's what they do. Even, you know, Satanists, whatever you may.
Oh, so now occultists actually do evil because they're like Satanists. What? You just said they weren't.
Want to call it, they engage in black magic. But not all occult practices are evil. Even many people know from my work, I reference a lot the occult forces based on Sri Aurobindo's work from in the Integral Yoga. And he uses the word as well, very neutral, because they are occult positive beings and occult negative beings.
Yeah.
If you even go into supernatural beings and somebody had made contact with Jesus, you know, the Jesus consciousness coming to them, appearing to them, that's actually an occult appearance. In that sense, Jesus appearing to you in a dream or in a vision, that's an occult force. Hopefully in this instance, occult positive force. So occult simply means hidden. Mostly outside, you know, that's it. It doesn't imply it's
you
evil.
cannot be in the occult and you cannot be in the New Age unless you join some sort of New Age. There is New Age cults, but in which case you joined a New Age cult.
You know, New Age is, like I said before, it's not this organization or tradition. You know, you join actually a Christian tradition, right?
Yes.
It's like you said, there are certain practices that.
So you can't join the New Age and you can't join the occult unless you join the occult and then you join the new. What's the name of your podcast? What's the episode? The New Age to Dogmatic Christian Pipeline. So you've already said that people are in the New Age, but then right here you said that you can't be in the New Age. You actually can't be in the New Age, and you actually can't be in the occult. What? The entire podcast is titled The New Age to Dogmatic Christian Pipeline, therefore insinuating that people are in the New Age and leaving the New Age for dogmatic Christianity, which again, I doubt that they even know what they're talking about or what that is. These people have a broken brain. This is what the New Age does to you. It breaks your brain.
Defined as New Age, but it has become so convoluted and people put all kinds of stuff into the New Age basket that has nothing to do with the New Age at all.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll play the last video, but this is also another thing that's very common is, let me just play the last video that I had for this hour.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys. So top 5 things as an ex-New Ager to Christ that I will no longer be doing, you guys. Number 1, you guys, is meditation.
and this is also ridiculous because there's also Christian mystics who have meditations.
Oh, the true Christian mystics, you know, Meister Eckhart.
Yeah.
You know, these are the true Christians.
Is Meister Eckhart a saint? He's not even a saint within the Catholic Church. So again, these are the people. They're so stupid. Oh my gosh, she said she's not going to do meditation. Again, as we said, what type of meditation? There's all types of meditations. There's tons of different schools of meditation. There's different styles of transcendental meditation. What type of meditation are you talking about? So you don't know what type of meditation she was in. Again, they just cut her off so she doesn't say anymore. Like, there's all types of practices that could be deemed demonic in one way or another. These people are retarded. They're literally retarded.
Saints,
Yes.
you know what I mean? They would turn themselves over in their graves or in their wherever they are, Rome, looking at this neo-Christian revival.
No, these are actually heretics. So there's a reason why, Meister Eckhart is not held in high esteem within the Orthodox Church. The idea that, well, we're New Age and we believe in some of these esoteric mystics. They don't even know about them. They don't even know about what they do or their So what? So what? Do you realize that there's a lot of Christians that have been deemed as heretics or their practices weren't supported or, for one reason or another? Like, again, these people, that's where towards the end, they go, these Christians, they literally believe in the Bible and they don't even know what esoteric symbolism is. I don't think you guys know what symbolism is, nor what literacy is.
It's insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where do you want to go? The corruption of religion. You want to talk about the occult forces and how they appear as divine beings? Where should we?
Well, in general, we also I want to also go understand that both people get stuck in the New Age, right? Or in religions is also mostly based on spiritual bypassing. Right,
Yes.
that's the core foundation. That's
Yeah.
really what unites them both. And what I'm seeing is people, as I took, sometimes people take the New Age pill. You know what I mean? Wishful thinking, getting all kinds of practices and ideas that just kind of bypass the inner psychological practice work, right? To avoid to facing your shadow, your
Yeah.
trauma, your inner childhood wounds, the basic psychological foundation.
Yeah, and can
So-
I say something to that?
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
So they try to get that, and then they don't find it, or something happens that doesn't fulfill them, and then read something about Jesus, or that kind of is almost the how can I say, being tempted by a different drug,
Spiritual materialism.
Spiritual materialism, and then
Yeah.
they get into Christian beliefs and Jesus saves me and all of that, but you're still just changing from one drug to the other without engaging in the necessary true inner work.
Yeah. So I made a post that was actually very controversial where I talked about this New Age to Dogmatic Christian Pipeline and how, a lot of people say they were in the New Age, but from what I've heard from these videos, we'll play more on the second hour, the people were just engaged in superficial spiritual bypassing type New Age practices, is whatever you were doing was not actually sincere, deep inner work. And I know because I've seen several very wounded people I know basically adopt this new persona of a dogmatic Christian, and these are people who have major trauma, have not actually looked at that in any sincere way, have major relationship issues, major issues on a just basic personality level, and yet now all of a sudden they have found themselves in this new identity, this new persona.
Spiritual
They've
identity.
created a new spiritual identity.
Yeah.
Originally, the spiritual identity was the New Age spiritual identity, and now the new identity is that I'm a born-again Christian identity. But each of them are actually removed from the true self. It's not a true expression of their essence. It's a new mask for their own wounding. And so that's the thing that I've seen. And I'm just observing this as a witness to see wow, people are probably also because of astrological reasons, because of the stuff happening in the world, they're kind of losing it a little bit, and they're grasping onto whatever they can to give them meaning. And I think that's actually the kind of golden seed in it, is that, while there is an authentic impulse towards the divine, which is natural and is very healthy. And as long as we live in a materialistic society, that impulse is not being honored. But the problem is if you suppress the impulse for too long, it can come out in a very distorted way later, which is why you have this dogmatism, which is why you have this black and white psychological splitting, calling everything satanic. So when you have an authentic impulse towards God, towards the divine, but your human psychology is super messed up and has all sorts of shit in it, it comes out in these distorted ways. That's how I feel.
Okay, so according to her brilliant summation, We have become Christians because we have a bunch of, according to her, shit inside of ourselves, trauma that we have yet to realize and deal with. And therefore, because of that, we then latch on to what she calls dogmatic Christianity, which I would be curious to know if she knows what a dogma is or could name a dogma of the church. Of course, we're Orthodox, so that would be dogmas such as the church, such as the Holy Trinity, such as the begottenness of Christ, such as the full divinity and humanity of Christ, the procession of the Holy Spirit. These are dogmas of the church. And a dogma, just because a dogma is a dogma, doesn't mean a dogma is wrong. And if you are dogmatically against dogmas, you also have dogmas. See, the problem with people who hate dogmas is the same people of why people that talk about how truth is relative. To say truth is relative is to make an objective claim. To be in opposition to dogmas is to make a dogmatic claim against dogmas. You just did the same thing. And so it's funny how she says these people, they have fragile psyches, and so they're just looking for reasons to explain the world, and it's probably due to astrology. Oh, Laura, I think you're actually doing the projecting right now, the self-psychological projecting. You just said that the reason why these people are acting the way they are is because the cycles of astrology and where we are in the planets. You again, as Christians, you have free will, so you can then choose your influence and whatever the forces, whatever astrological influences you think are affecting you or they think they're affecting you, you still have free will. And if you didn't, then you would be sort of built into a sort of deterministic system, which is absolutely a sinful heresy from a Christian worldview.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I also want to add, when we really watched dozens of these videos and researched all of that, I mean, like we just played, you can laugh about it, make fun of it. Somehow the claims are somewhat funny and ridiculous in the sense. But I have to say, it was also sad to see and a bit disturbing, because even when you're looking at the people, the videos, these are very broken, lost people, traumatized. You could see they have no understanding what they're actually talking about. They're completely checked out, disembodied, and just grasping to this belief in this fanatical sense, right? That almost reminds me of this dark revival of the missionary religious Christian complex of the medieval times. Yes. Right? Because we want to talk about this as well, because they're demonizing, astrology is satanic.
Sage is satanic.
Sage is satanic. They talked about tarot is satanic. It's almost like this revival of witch hunting.
Yes, divinatory practices like astrology and tarot are in a way satanic, because it's in opposition to God's will for the accumulation of one's own power and knowledge. As they even admit, these are bypassing spiritual systems. These help you bypass. Yoga helps you bypass. Astrology helps you. They've been saying this. I don't know if you guys picked it up. And now they're saying that, these people believe that these are satanic and that these are fragile people. These are people just barely hanging on to reality. Look at these people. Look how broken they are. And if they are, more power to them for finding Christ. Glory to God for finding the people who need him the most. It's... Oh, you guys already get it. I'm preaching to the choir here.
Burning people at the stake for daring to read the stars, or burning incense and all these kind of things, or the slaughter of the missionaries, of the genocide of the indigenous people under the name of Jesus and God. That's the energy behind it.
It is, yeah. And that's why it's scary. And I want to really talk about that in the second hour, that this could really lead, when Neptune enters Aries, into some sort of religious holy wars, where like people... you tell people they have God on their side, and they can actually commit some pretty intense atrocities because they believe that it's their divine birthright. So this kind of leads to one of the biggest things that I think is kind of an interesting commentary on where we're at right now. And there's this guy named Oswald Spangler, who wrote this book called Decline of the West in 1918 and 1922. Covering human history. And so this Oswald Spangler guy was basically a German polymath, which means he's like a genius in multiple areas, His areas of interest included history, philosophy, math, science, art, as well as their relation to the organic theory of history. And he's best known for this 2-volume work called Decline of the West. And according to Spangler, he said that societies and civilizations change according to the cycles of rise, decline, and fall, just as an individual person is born, matures, old age, and death. And so just to give you the gist of it, he says that societies develop roughly in the same way over a period of 1,000 to 1,500 years. And they begin as feudal societies organized by common metaphysical insights. They become increasingly urban, and they turn these insights into art, philosophy, and politics. And then they enter a period corresponding with Western modernity. So that's intellectually skeptical and politically chaotic. And finally, they enter the final age of Caesarism and full civilization. And then basically they enter into a decline. And what he says is a mark of this kind of end of the civilization is called the second religiousness. And basically, I'm just going to read you what a guy named Blake Hood said about this. And he said that Spangler said in the final years of democracy, which he called the reign of money, there would be a return to more archaic forms of living. He prophesied that money would destroy intellect as well as the traditional cultural forms and institutions that previously held society together. And the people, in their exhaustion and desperation, would look back to the spiritual traditions of their distant past for guidance. That's what he called the second religiousness. This occurs in all civilizations after they reach a mature stage of development. And then he goes on and he says, so what specifically would the second religiousness look like? Spangler speculated that some primitive form of Christianity would take hold. Basically, he means like evangelicism, basically, you know.
Evangelical Christianity was going to be the second religiosity? No, this woman doesn't really know what she's talking about. So let me describe to you how Spangler describes the second religiosity. So Spangler argues that second religiosity is a natural part of the cultural cycle of civilization. As I get for him, civilizations or cultures are living organisms themselves. Again, watch my stream on Man and Technics if you want to get a fuller breakdown on his general worldview. And that which in the creative energy of a civilization is channeled inward, resulting in a deeper exploration for the meaning and purpose of life. Why? Because he argued that the exterior form of the culture was going to become more and more materialistic and therefore was going to die off, of which he already argued was in that stage at the beginning of the 20th century. In the case of Western civilization, Spangler argues that the second religiosity stage is a symptom of the decline of the civilization and that its loss of vitality and creative energy. He notes that Western civilization is experiencing a profound cultural and spiritual crisis, and that this crisis is reflected in the increasing interest in spiritual and philosophical questions. Now, of course, for Spangler, Western civilization was a Faustian civilization and was not part of the Magian civilization, which included Judaism, Orthodox Christianity, and Islam. So, because he argued Western Christianity had presuppositions that were very different. What's so interesting is that the New Age spirituality, start with Blavatsky, start with the Western esoteric traditions, doesn't really matter. We can begin with occult. We can begin with the Renaissance in Florence, Italy. It doesn't matter where we begin. The point is the presuppositions of Western Christianity itself are all embedded together. And so the New Age isn't that much different from Protestant Christianity, so to speak. Now, of course, we as Christians believe Jesus Christ is the real God, and so Jesus Christ can absolutely reach out and save those that are Protestants or Catholics or evangelicals or whatever they may be. However, the presuppositions of the worldview, generally speaking, they're embedded and they're part of the same Western civilization. And so what's so funny is that New Age spirituality is that thing that's reaching back into archaic forms of expressions of religiosity, shamanism, astrology, magical forms of divinization, tarot cards. You can get into prayer, meditation, all these different practices. I mean, and they want to argue that these people that are converting from New Age to what they're calling dogmatic Christianity, they never define what dogmatic Christianity is either. It's just the Christianity that doesn't accept their worldview, I guess, that doesn't accept their New Age spirituality as being co-equal. And so, therefore, Spangler's talking about these people who are converting back to Christian. No, he's not, because again, for you and I converting back to Orthodoxy, we're not even converting back to the same Western civilization, according to Spangler's theoretical worldview. We're converting to the Magian worldview, which has a totally different orientation than the Faustian worldview, which is about progress and self-power, which is exactly the spiritual basis for New Age spirituality. So it's like, lady, Laura, sorry, but you yourself are totally embedded with the Faustian presuppositions of Western civilization, of which Spangler's actually articulating in The Decline of the West, which is a 2-volume series, which you clearly haven't read.
A more primitive form of it. This has been the only Christian sect to see growth in the postmodern world. And he said, Spangler also mentions that it will be popular. The new spiritual yearning will show itself first in the people, the folk, and not the elite. So basically, and this is another quote by a guy named John Michael Greer, who has a blog where he writes he wrote an article about this. And he says in his own words, what Oswald Spangler calls the second religiosity, the flight of the cultured classes back to traditional religion, once yet another age of reason has ended in moral and intellectual bankruptcy, is a standard feature in his historical trajectory of every civilization.
Yeah.
So this moral and intellectual bankruptcy that we see, in materialism, in the world that we know it, is actually, the end of a certain phase, and then we enter this phase of the second religiosity, basically. Yeah. So people have lost faith in all of these institutions. There is an authentic movement happening here, but it's kind of like this primitive revival, as this guy Blake Hood said.
Yeah. So it's interesting. We started this movement, this from New Age to Dogmatic Christianity movement, starting, like you said, about 3 years ago when the quote unquote shit hit the fan, right?
Yeah.
When, with the whole pandemic and the lockdowns and the Matrix trauma installment program, people are again being traumatized. That's also from a social engineering perspective. You can see it from a different level, even what you shared in terms of the evolution of consciousness, but also social engineering, right? So a lot of people have become traumatized, and there's a natural impulse to seek something higher, to seek God, to have this religious impulse. There's a purity behind it.
Yeah.
Right. We're not. There's truth in these religions. There's truth in Christianity in all of that, but it just becomes perverted and distorted over time. Right.
Yeah.
And then people, either in their desperation to ease their pain, to find a way out, they either latch on to the false light kind of stuff, New Age, all this stuff, then they don't find it there, or they become extremely dogmatic religious. Like you said, they need that identification with something that gets them out of their pain.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So it's a trauma response, and that's how they get easily controlled and hijacked.
Yeah.
So because 2020 was a social engineering trauma program, if you converted to Christianity, obviously it can't be true. And it can't be a more comprehensive worldview, which can actually account for many of the presuppositions that we all truly believe in. It's just because you're too weak. I'm afraid to break it to you. You're just too darn weak to deal with your own dark side and your own trauma. And therefore, you just need a new identity to get out of it. And
it could be in response to
As
stress
part
of
of
the
it.
couple. I think there's an authentic impulse there.
Yeah.
Especially since, we do live in this era of materialism, of scientism, of worshiping science. There is a relationship with the sacred, which has gone underground, which has gone unconscious. So, there's some authenticity behind it, but it's almost like this knee-jerk reaction to be like, society's messed up, we need to go back to the old ages kind of thing, and it's missing the progress of the past couple thousand years as well.
Yeah.
the progress from Christian civilization, is that what you mean, the last couple thousand years?
And also, can we tie this into something contemporary?
Yes.
For example, what happened recently, we saw the Grammys. A lot of people has been posting about that.
Yeah.
Quite a disturbing, very obvious, demonic, satanic ceremony. I forgot the guy who was that.
So he just said, listen to it. He just said that the Sam Smith president was clearly a demonic, satanic ritual, or I forget what he's. Let's just move it back, just so we do not misquote the man. Let's just move it back just a little bit. And then you'll hear later how they say the Christians use this as outrage porn because they're just manipulated by the divide and conquer mentality. And so they just look at this stuff and they just get outraged, and so they're manipulated. But again, you see how he began. He's like, oh, clearly a demonic and satanic. Demonic and satanic, where's that worldview come from, bub? What makes something a demon? What makes something satanic? What's wrong with satanic religion in your New Age worldview? What's wrong with it?
Recently, we saw the Grammys. A lot of people has been posting about that.
Yeah.
Quite a disturbing, very obvious demonic, satanic ceremony. I forgot the guy.
Demonic, satanic ceremony, he said. So a ritual.
So for those who haven't seen it, Sam Harris, he's a very popular artist these days.
Not Sam Harris,
or Sam.
I don't know who the guy is.
Sam Smith. Sorry, yeah, Sam Smith. Yeah, so Sam Smith, he's an English singer-songwriter. I believe he's trans. He dresses as a woman. He dresses in women's clothes. He's probably doesn't identify. He's non-binary, I think. So anyway, he basically did a live version of this song "Holy," which is a very interesting song lyrically already. Unholy, sorry, not holy. It's called Unholy, and it was like super basically devil imagery, all red. It was like obviously like satanic imagery.
I mean, it's almost too cheesy, almost, right?
Yeah.
But, so here's the thing, and then people are like, see, Hollywood is satanic, and it's true. There's a lot of Satanism there. We know this in pop culture. It's being promoted, right? But you have to also understand it from a social engineering perspective and also from an occult perspective. Because what's happening right now, we have talked about this before, with this extreme leftist wokeism, and non-binary stuff, sexual perversions and all of that, it creates an outrage. This far left, demonic movement, so to speak, also creates the other extreme right now.
Creates the far right.
It creates more and more the far right, and creates more and more religious, dogmatic Christian fanaticism.
Yeah.
And that's also by design. You have to understand that, right? They want to almost, Michael Tessian said something very interesting about this as well in a podcast I listened to a few months ago. We mentioned that he will see the rise of true right-wing fanaticism as well as a counter, response, so to speak, the duality.
Yeah.
The one cannot exist without the other. So what's happening right now, and I mentioned this in my post as well, we need to be very careful not to, project all our hate and anger and disgust on the Sam Smith and Hollywood and Satanism, you know what I mean? Because that's what these Christians or the right wing are doing.
Yeah.
They're becoming that. Everybody has their own moral superiority, high ground, and virtue signaling, be it the people on the left or the right Christians.
Yeah.
So we have to watch out. So according to Bernard here, we need to watch out for events like the Grammys, because what it is, it's a form of divide and conquer, occult manipulation, so that we then project ourselves onto them. Now, I can understand projecting aspects of yourself, but I've never thought about being homosexual, trans, or satanic, or, represent myself as the devil, as we saw in the Sam Smith Grammy performance. From most of the Orthodox and people I know, nobody was overly outraged. It was like, yeah, can you expect that? Yeah, I kind of expect it. It's crazy about this time of the world. I know it. Seems like everybody's a satanic pedophile, or they're, or they're transgressing some sexual bound. I know it. It seems crazy. How are the kids? How's the wife? You guys doing well? Oh, yeah, we're doing great. I haven't seen a bunch of people that are just psychologically scapegoating and are just drooling at the mouth because they're so outraged by Sam Smith and what's going on. This is expected. It's as a great point, as His Glory says, wouldn't that just balance out their New Age worldview? Isn't the right and left it's all about balance, right? Because again, theodicy, how do you account for the existence of evil? Well, they're not going to really be able to account for the existence of evil, except that evil somehow has a positive ontological existence and it's battling good or something, or individual people get to participate in it. But you see, they admit, oh yeah, that was an occult. They said occult, satanic, demonic ceremony. So they just use the occult in reference to something that was demonic or satanic, which again, earlier in the podcast, they said, oh, those stupid Christians, it just means hidden. Okay, well, you just did exactly what you mocked those Christians that you used video clips of earlier in the stream or in the podcast. Now you're saying, oh, yeah, Sam Smith and that whole Grammy, it definitely was a satanic ceremony. But let me tell you why they do these. They do these to divide and conquer, and it's not because it's, I guess, really satanic. It's not that it's really satanic. It's that it makes the Christians mad. And so because it makes the Christians mad, it perpetuates the ritual. What? What are you talking about, dude? Is it satanic or is it not? Do you have an obligation to fight against degeneracy or do you not? What are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense. Again, you see how they speak out of both sides of their mouth. So it's a bad ceremony, but they only do it to divide and conquer. And it's part of, now, again, we can agree about the divide and conquering part, right wing, left wing politics, Republican, Democrat, of course. However, as Christians, there is only one truth. Truth is a who, not a what. It is Jesus Christ. By following Jesus Christ, everything that then transgresses that morality is something that has to be actively resisted. And that active resistance is our call to duty as Christians. And that's part of, St. George, that is part of fighting the serpent, killing the dragon. That's what we're called to do. And so whether it was true or not, we're definitely supposed to speak out against it. I mean, whether it was intentional or not, of course it was intentional. Look at the whole ceremony. But you see, these people, they talk out of both sides of their mouth.
Everybody's all of a sudden,
holier than thou.
Holier than thou.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what these occult forces, the hyperdimensional matrix, feed upon this projected luge and want to create this artificial polarization to an extreme, because then it's easier to control both sides.
Yeah, because
it's the ultimate divide and conquer.
Both sides are emotionally reactive, and also, I think a huge part of it in psychological terms is this aspect of a defense mechanism called projective identification.
Yes,
where if an individual projects qualities that are unacceptable onto you for long enough, whether it's an individual or a person, you can internalize those projected qualities and believe yourself to be characterized by them. So, for example, what has been the biggest projection we've seen in the past couple of years? Well, I've been called it a racist, far-right, Christian nationalist. This is all words I've been called just for talking about the vaccine. And so this is also...
Now I want to highlight this. Okay, so she's saying, well, look at this projection. I've been called a racist. Okay, so you must be a white woman because, again, if we look at demographics, the Caucasian white community in America was by far the highest that refused to get vaccinated. I was called a racist Christian nationalist. Oh, because the Christians and white folks they were the highest demographics that didn't get jibby-jabbed. The nationalism, just a form of politics that prefers nation over globalism. So white, national, Christian, those are, can you believe the projection? Well, maybe you should think about why those terms are become synonymous with people speaking truth about the jibby-jab. Why is that the case? Why is that the case? Why is it that Christians were by far the highest single group that refused to get the jibby jab? Why is that? Could it be that maybe we could see through the matrix, as they like to talk about, a little bit more clearly? Could it be that Christ gave us eyes when we were blind, and so that we could actually see what was coming and what was going on?
Something that is psychologically unaware could easily be like, oh, maybe I am a Christian, and maybe because I see this happening to people. It's like you call someone a far right Christian nationalist long enough, and the psychologically immature will be like, okay, maybe I am. I'm just going to get even more into that projection as well. So I think that's a huge thing happening on a psychological level, is basically collectively as a group, the right, and even a lot of people in the spiritual community may have accepted the projections that were being put upon them, and now they've literally become the projection of the far left boogeyman, and the madness ensues.
Exactly.
No, people aren't the projection of the boogeyman on the left. Maybe there's a globalist agenda to use these pawns. Maybe you guys have been bought into some of this propaganda, and that leftists who are then constantly killing themselves through the jibby jabs, through the self-sterilization, through the transgenderism, through their homoerotic activity. Maybe it's these things that are actually part of a spiritual warfare in which people are voluntarily killing themselves. And maybe there's a group that is comprised by a lot of different denominations and even have a lot of distinctions and differences between each other, but generally would be called Christians. Maybe they, for some reason, have such a higher number of people resisting these things, and it's not some psychological projection by the left. Maybe it's a script propagated by the globalists themselves so that the people who buy into the narrative then spout that stuff as the boogeyman. Maybe your Caucasian brothers and sisters who are Christian and nationalist, maybe they're your best allies in resisting the New World Order, right? Didn't he already say that he recognized that there's a New World Order? Okay, there's a New World Order. Who's behind that? What do they want? Oh, no nations, no borders, no countries at all? Oh, so nationalism would be in opposition. What else do they hate? They want a one world religion. He's talked about earlier with Blavatsky. So Christians don't want a one world religion. They believe the world's going to get worse and worse and worse till Christ comes back. So I guess that'd be an opposition too. Okay, what about mass immigration? Is there a deliberate plan by certain groups of people to potentially alter demographics in Europe and Western nations? I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit more here than they want to look at. Maybe they themselves are the ones that are projecting.
So that's the danger in right now. Even I posted something. I saw, and maybe people are aware of, Madonna had this very disturbing.
Here, we'll play more of the podcast here. I'm going to hit some of these super chats. Thank you all, brothers and sisters, for the super chats. We got one from Solomon1618, throws in $2 and says, "Breath of life" for $2. You got it, bro. For $2, I will say breath of life. The breath of life. Next one comes from Justin, throws in no comment, $5. Well, thank you so much, Justin, for the super chat, brother. Truly do appreciate it. Next one comes from our brother in arms, Keenan Beats. Shout out to Keenan Beats for the $5 super chat, no comment. Well, God bless you, Keenan. Make sure you go find him over on Instagram. Follow his SoundCloud. Follow all his music. Help out our brother. I believe he's got a YouTube channel. Keenan, and again, his links are in the video description, so make sure you follow Keenan and B-Dive. Shout out to Keenan. Next one comes from Adam Nice, throws in $4.99 and says, "Thank you, David, for your work." Well, thank you, Adam Nice, for your work and for your contribution. I truly do appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for the support. God bless you and the family. And then next one comes from David Franco Jr. Shout out to David Franco. He says for $4.99, "Do you think it is possible it could be some level of psyop to get Christians to focus on these things and not notice bigger things like CFR or war?" Well, David Franco, I don't think even if you wanted to, I don't think most people would know about the CFR. Again, if you just... my personal opinion is that truth isn't for everybody. That's why Jesus Christ came, because everybody can accept Christ, but then not everybody has to look into the Rockefeller Foundation, who backed the Mao in the Cultural Revolution in China, who funded that, where did the Bolsheviks come from, where did they get their training and their money from, how did they overthrow the Russian Empire, how did they overthrow the Tsar? I just don't think that that's for everybody. I think we as Christians, we love truth, and we should then, if you have the intellect and if you have the desire, you should pursue those things, and you should then dish those out to people when they ask and when they're ready for. But I have a lot of friends and family that, they have great hearts, and that's what they're going to be judged on when they reach the kingdom. Do they know what the CFR is? No. Do they know what the Trilateral Commission is? No. Do they know about how the, Jekyll Island and the founding of the federal? No, they don't. Do they need to know that to reach the kingdom? No. But do you think that there is a psyop to get Christians to focus on things and not notice bigger things? Absolutely. And I think the biggest one is within the churches. So I think you're absolutely right, David Franco, on, certainly getting people to notice things that aren't important. But at this point in time, I think after 2020, it's so out in the open and obvious what's going on in regard to the degeneracy, in regard to the spiritual battle, in regards to the war that's at hand right now, that it's really all on you. All the information's out there if you want to know. All the distractions and entertainment's out there if you don't want to know. And so whether they're Christian or Muslim or New Age, it's really just your heart and where you're at and what you want to do and where you want to go. Do I think that there's a psyop to get Christians to focus on things? Absolutely. I think everything's a psyop. You know, do I believe that there's a Chinese spy balloon? Of course not. A spy balloon? Why wouldn't they just use satellites? Why wouldn't they use satellites? That doesn't make any sense. Is it trying to gear us and again, a psyop, a predictive programming to get us ready for something else, like a fake alien invasion? Yeah, that sounds about right. Get us ready for World War III? Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. And I think a lot of Christians, to David Franco Jr.'s point, I think a lot of Christians fall for it, unfortunately. But at the same time, you know, that's not what's going to get them into the kingdom. So for those of us who do know and those of us who do think that way, you know, we need to share it in the best way possible for those who are willing to learn. And that's where, again, Jay Dyer's content or my content, you know, one of the reasons why I try not to water things down, generally speaking, is it's not for a mass audience. It's not for the majority of Orthodox Christians. It's for people who then in their own heart, in their own spiritual journey, are looking for the things that I want to talk about and I want to express to people. And so that's kind of the way that I view it, generally speaking, in regards to, Christians like looking at things or the acquirement of information. But, you know, David Franco Jr., I think that it's going to be hard for most Christians to put all the dots together just because, like you said, there are so many psyops. I mean, again, if you believe in the moon landing, you see, like, there's so many different rabbit holes within the worldview that if you believe one thing, then it pulls the worldview into another vortex of ideas that then are associated that then lead them all together. So, DARPA, the earthquake, you know, the HARP, how did the earthquake in Turkey take place? It was interesting how Turkey, 2 days before the earthquake, released the actual numbers in the Ukraine-Russian war, which totally flipped the Western narrative that Ukraine was winning. It showed the exact opposite. Lo and behold, all of a sudden, there's a huge earthquake in Turkey and Syria, right next to, again, right at the point in one of their important pipelines. We know that the U.S. bombed the Nord Stream pipeline. I think that it's all such a spiritual reality that if your heart is clean, again, that's where Orthodoxy and the theology of the noose, if your heart is clean, it's like whether you're a high intellectual or you have a 60 IQ, you can see through the madness. You can see through it. And so it's really just then, again, acquiring that relationship with Christ, which allows us to see clearer, which, again, was what Scripture's highlighting, how he gives us sight when we're blind. So, David Franco, do I agree? Yeah, I pretty much agree. Also, I don't think the majority of Christians need to know about the CFR because I don't think they'd be able to put all the dots together to even understand it. David Franco Jr. throws in another super chat for $4.99 and says, I think I see what they are saying, though. It causes a reaction, which they then react to, and there is some kind of escalation cycle. Yeah, of course. So it's it's provocative. Do I think Sam Smith and his tranny friend dressed up as demons to be provocative towards Christians and right-wingers? Of course they did. Of course it's a provocation. Sure. Is that a psyop? I mean, no, that's not a psyop in my opinion. I mean, maybe it could be perceived one to a certain degree. Do I think that it's, that this is all part of a psychological projection on Christians to look at what Sam Smith and his trans friend, what they did, and that it was, that this is all a psychological projection of the Christians because they haven't dealt with their dark selves or no, absolutely not. I think that what it is, it's a celebration of the degeneracy, which is a provocation in the face because it's showing the industry who sponsored the whole Grammys, Pfizer. The whole thing, not just that song, the entire Grammys was sponsored by Pfizer. And do your own research. Research what Pfizer is backwards. Spell Pfizer backwards and research that. I I challenge you guys. And so do I think that being a provocation of celebrating the degeneracy, which is now the cultural norm, is a psyop? No. Is it a way to manipulate people's emotions? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we can't get overly emotional about it. So in David Franco Jr., I agree with you as well that I do see what they're saying in regards to the cause of a reaction, because I do think that's why Sam Smith and whoever that dude is that he was with wanted to do all that. Why did they want to do it? To cause a reaction, to cause a stir. Why did Sam Smith dress like, Gumby, a black Gumby the other night in London? To get a reaction, because all these people are self-worshipers and all they care about is attention. Should we give them our emotion? No. Should we recognize what it is when we see it? Yes. And then we just focus back on Christ and our loved ones, our family, our friends, our relationships, and God. That's all that we can really do about it, in my opinion. So that's the way I see it. So again, David Franco Jr., I'll read both your questions again. I agree pretty much with you. Do you think it's possible it could be some level of psyop to get Christians to focus on those things and not notice the bigger things like the CFR and war? Yes, but also I don't think the majority of Christians need to know about the CFR. And then David Franco Jr. says, I think I see what they're saying, though. It causes a reaction, which they then react to, and there is some kind of escalation cycle. Well, what is the escalation on the right side? What is the escalation cycle? I'm not sure about that. I don't see an escalation. I just see that there's going to be more of a normalization of what they're presenting. Look at Nas and him, dancing, giving the devil a lap dance and putting blood. Is it an escalation cycle? No. If you're a Christian, it's moving all towards the Antichrist. So, it has to move that direction from a biblical worldview. Our timeline is that it's going to get darker and darker and more degenerate. And so, of course, we're going to see more and more and more and more of this stuff in culture, more and more and more of this stuff on TV. Is that a psyop? It's the way that I think history has to move, in my opinion. So thank you so much, David Franco Jr., for the support, brother. Thank you for the super chats. I truly do appreciate it. And then social media, Dr. Vagisil throws in $2 and says, social media primes youth to have a mindset ripe for new age because you feel the need to exalt yourself in front of the world to get attention/validation. Yes, queen, for denying yourself and building up others in community to exemplify God's love. Amen to that, Dr. Vagisil. I couldn't agree more. And then I see David Franco in the comments. He said, to be absent from the body is to be present with Christ. At the level of Balenci. Oh, okay. I think you're having a conversation, brother. Well, anyways, David Franco Jr., thank you so much, bro, for the super chat. I pretty much agree with you. But at the same time, my worldview and my timeline is that it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. So is every time a demonstration of the Antichrist spirit, is it a psyop, or is it a way in which it can sublimate my emotional energies if I get too invested into it? Yeah. I think it can be too engrossing. Okay, David Franco throws in another one. Let's read this one. David Franco Jr. throws in another $4.99. Says, unfortunately, Christians can't really escalate, but they go vote for Shields. Isn't that the truth? Like Lindsey Graham or something, and then lefties go, that's Christianity. Yeah, David Franco Jr., I couldn't agree more, bro. I could not agree more. So, and that's, oh man, where do we start with that? Yeah, David Franco Jr., it's unfortunate. Christians, again, they vote for these shills, like you said, like Lindsey Graham. I saw Lindsey Graham's getting ready to vote with another, Dick Durbin on Amnesty Act to allow a bunch of illegals permanent residency. Yeah, Lindsey Graham is a shill. Most of the Republican parties are shills. Anybody who thinks we're going to vote our way out of this hasn't, as you accurately highlight, they haven't put together what the CFR is. They haven't put together what globalism. They don't know what the Great Reset is. They haven't read, the Fourth Industrial Revolution. They don't know what's getting ready to come. And so, yeah, so I totally agree with you, David Franco Jr. If you're meaning the average boomer Christian and their reaction, yeah, you're right. They can't really escalate, but they just follow the program. You're right. It's really sad, man. And and they're just totally manipulated by their emotions. They're manipulated by, again, the Sam Smiths of the world, all the degeneracy, the Madonnas of the world. So it sounds like we're pretty much in full agreement. Next, Dr. Vagisil threw in $5 and said, I feel strongly about this because I have so many family that have this week conflict-averse attitudes with lust, which is a constant reminder to be vigilant and not allow the allure of self-exaltation and self-restraint and giving to others. Stay strong, y'all. Well, no doubt, Dr. Vagisil, God bless you, brother, and thank you so much for the support. We have to stay strong. And that's why, again, just being part of a community of like-minded people so you don't think you're crazy, right? The fact that you're seeing all this stuff in culture and you're putting all the dots, you're not crazy. We're all together. Shout out to all you guys that are here. Truly appreciate it. We're not alone. We're not alone. And that's why, even though we're not in physical proximity to each other, we're in a sort of digital proximity, and we know that we're not alone. We have similar minds and we see things similarly, and we're not crazy. And that way, as David Franco Jr., we don't become the sort of boomer response to the degeneracy in the world and think we're going to vote our way out of this or Donald Trump's going to save us. No, Donald Trump is an idiot. Ron DeSantis votes for speech laws so you can't talk about his favorite tribe. They're not going to save us. They may delay it, again, a little bit. They may be a reaction and response, a part of the dialectic. It may be a little bit of a nicer 4 years or something. But we're not getting out of this. Again, from my worldview, things are just going to get worse and worse and worse from this point forward. Anyways, let's get back to the podcast. Again, what they were just talking about, they were talking about Sam Smith and the satanic imagery, the ceremony of Sam Smith, right? But again, but they don't believe that. They don't believe this stuff. These Christians do, but then they refer to it as satanic.
For the Vanity Fair, her dressed as kind of like Mary Magdalene or some Christian symbolism with the Last Supper, but it was very, again, quote unquote, satanic, demonic, disturbing, right? So you have to understand from the occult perspective, they display that also because they like to show it. They want to show what they're up to, the agenda, also to normalize that kind of stuff, especially targeting children, but also to create that outrage. And if you have no strong psychological foundation and also a strong spiritual foundation, your own personal connection to the divine, not some theological Bible-thumping, belief intellectually, but your true inner connection to your true self, which is a connection.
Again, so I can agree with, as David Franco, I think all of us can probably agree with Bernard here, that these flamboyant displays of degeneracy are provocative, emotional, trying to draw an emotional reaction from people. True. But then what did he say? Not these Bible thumpers, not these people that believe in theology, but those that are connected with their true. What is your true self, Bernard? How do you know it? Is it a subjective experience? Is every true self the same true self? Of course it is. And that's where we see the satanic annihilation of the personhood of God within this worldview.
The divine, you can easily just be swept along with this agenda and become that what they want you to program to become.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the danger right now with the fundamentalist Christian revival, because it literally becomes again which we talked about as used to be the missionary complex. Only Jesus can save you. Jesus is the only way. If you don't accept Jesus, you're in hell. And I also want to point out one thing.
Jesus is the only one that can save you. I don't make a claim about who's in hell or who's in heaven. All I know is that the saints are still living and they can intercede for us because they are still living and they are in the kingdom. But again, you see how the demonization of actual religion and outside of these sort of just relative forms of spirituality.
What I've seen, the common belief of this new neo-Christian revival from the New Age, I want to really point that out before we close the first hour, because it goes really back to a very primitive literal belief in the Bible without really understanding the true symbolism, the esotericism, the esoteric knowledge that's in it. By the way, I read the Bible. As a child, I grew up as a Christian in Germany, and also it was part of the curriculum in school, and also as an adult again. And, I think it takes a higher mind to really understand the Bible to begin with, the deeper symbolism, and also the distortions, because it's been rewritten, translated. So you cannot take people when they quote the Bible on face value because they project their own meaning into it. Number one, right? Number two,
they project their own meaning into it. Okay, so he's recognized what hermeneutics are and that there's infinite interpretations to passages in which are read. But yet he claims that you have to have a higher mind, and he's read the Bible, and so you need to listen to him because he has the true esoteric symbolism. He has the true hermeneutical analysis because he's definitely not projecting any of his biases and worldviews into his reading of Scripture. He's definitely not doing any of that. So you need to listen to this New Ager because he read the Bible one time when he was a kid because he was in Germany and that was part of the schooling. And so because he read it one time because he was in school, therefore you really need to listen to it because he has the right esoteric symbolism. What? What type of nonsense is? You see how dumb, how low IQ this is?
Literally to the point. Like, for example, the guy said they invented reincarnation. So hardcore fundamentalist Christians, they believe in soul evolution. They believe you're born in sin, right? And only if you accept Jesus as your savior, you go to heaven. Otherwise, you go to hell. I know I'm oversimplifying, but that's the general rule of what these fundamentalist Christians believe. They also only believe that the earth is 5,000 years old. That's it.
Again, and that there are some people that absolutely believe that. Generally speaking, I believe the timeline is more 6,000 to 7,000, but either way, again, you see how straw man doesn't make sense. So he assumes then all these New Agers who've converted to Christianity, well, then they're too dumb because they don't have the high mind to truly interpret the Scripture the right way, right?
So it becomes very, it goes back to this archaic medieval belief that can end up very, very dangerous for the world.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap this up and talk about the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. So obviously, these people think that astrology is demonic right off the gate. Yeah. But let me talk about it. And this is actually an article from Jessica Davidson, really great astrologer. I love her work. And I'm just going to read what she says, and we can maybe just comment on a little bit. And then she quotes Jung at the end in this really incredible quote. So basically, and these are Jessica Davidson's words, not mine. And she says, the age of Pisces runs from roughly 50 BCE to 2100. So we're currently in the transition between ages. The age of Aquarius is waning in the wings and new archetypes are rising as the old gods fade. And basically, the age of Pisces began at the peak of the Roman Empire, lasted until 476 CE in the West. Christianity became such a massive influence on the rest of the world, largely thanks to Rome adopting it as an official religion, and it spread across the empire and then remained long after the fall of Rome. And Jung also saw the birth of Christ as the herald of the age of Pisces. It was a synchronous event that revealed images of the divine held within the collective unconscious. In fact, most of our ideas about the age of Pisces are linked to the symbolism of Christianity, with its emphasis on fish, loaves, fish, washing of feet, etc. In Ion, Jung explored the symbolism and how it relates to history. He used the two fishes in the Pisces constellation to map the development of Christianity as the age unfolded. The first fish relates to the birth of Christ and the growth of the early church. The second fish relates to the downfall of Christianity and the rise of science and materialism. The zeitgeist of the Pisces age.
Okay, so you see, this is the moronic presuppositions of these people. They're reading a description of Pisces, so astrological symbols, Pisces and Aquarius, from somebody in the 21st century to encapsulate all of history as now they can finally understand what all this stuff means, and saying what it means within Christianity, despite Christianity not recognizing that or arguing that. No Christian says, you know what? The Pisces symbols, one fish represents our beginning and our growth, and then the other one represents our decline. That's what it represents. No, you just some woman told you this. Like, really? Really? This is how they're going to cap off this incredibly articulate and intelligent podcast.
The growth of religion, faith, and idealism, while the old sky gods drifted further out of reach. Eventually, they evaporated altogether, leaving us with a hollowed-out materialism, which doesn't appear to represent Pisces at all. However, this reflects the complex nature of the sign and the workings of the collective unconscious, which always seeks balance. The two fishes represents the opposites of spirituality and materialism, faith and science. They're swimming away from each other, showing the tension between them, but they're also tied together. You can't have one side without the other. They need each other as parts of the one whole. At best, Pisces represents the love and compassion that comes from the recognition of this interdependence and unity. It also represents the illusion of Maya and the desire to escape the world of suffering. This can create spiritual awakening and liberation as seen in the great mystics. But a fixation on transcendence can also lead to spiritual bypassing and being ungrounded or spaced out. Idealism can create a desire for purity and perfection, which triggers a tendency to repress or deny the opposite qualities. The physical world and the body then become problems to be fixed, creating the demonization of the flesh, the feminine in nature. The material world is pushed into the shadows from where it acts out in distorted ways. So this is a really key piece, is this tension between materialism and spiritualism, purity and perfection in the body, right? And so if you basically delegate the religious impulse side of that, the spiritual impulse into the shadows, it's going to come out in distorted ways. And same with materialism. You demonize the flesh and the body, and it comes out in distorted ways. So that's the issue.
Yeah, so we see this in all religions, in Christianity, the demonization of the flesh. It's, the demonization. You see it, with the Vatican.
First of all, obviously that's not true for Orthodoxy. Orthodoxy does not have a dialectical tension between the spirit and flesh. That's a Platonic presupposition that non-physicality is somehow higher than physicality. Ironically, I would think some of the New Agers actually believe in some of this stuff. But Christianity is not anti-flesh. It's certainly pro-morality, which is going to limit maybe sexual conduct in certain ways. But is there a Western presupposition? Yeah, actually in Protestantism, this does get going to some degree, that the body's bad and non-physical is good. It's a Platonic presupposition. So are they totally right here? Well, no, it's not about Orthodoxy or traditional Christianity, but to some degree, aspects of Western Christianity can be perceived as less sympathetic to material and materialism. However, I would argue, and I think all of us would argue, that's actually part of the heretical forms of Christianity, which these people are reacting to.
And child sex trafficking and pedophilia, that's actually more and more coming to the front.
That's a good example.
Ironically, even you can see statistically, it's fascinating. The Bible Belt in the U.S., where the hardcore fundamentalist religious Christians live, they have the highest usage of internet porn.
Yeah.
So what they do in the shadows, you see it in India. Sri Aurobindo talked about the trap of the aesthetics, of shunning life, of mutilating yourself, of denying the material world. You see it even in the distorted spiritual Western New Age world, even more somehow or it's everything should be free. You know what I mean? To be spiritual is mean to give, to be of service, to be everything for free and not ask for anything. To be spiritual means it's to live in poverty, actually. Comes from Christianity, so to speak. While the Vatican is rich with gold and riches and all of it, and sinking in wealth.
Yeah.
But it has become so very distorted. While on the opposite extreme, you see the absolute greed of materialism, right?
Exactly.
And I want to just say on that note, that's why Sri Aurobindo made a good point that, we need to reconquer the forces of money, sex, and power from the hostile forces which the materialism has hijacked. Not reject them. That is the trap of religions.
That pushes it into the shadows.
Because it pushes in the shadow, exactly. And that's why we actually, the shadows comes out unconsciously.
That's why you just need to masturbate out in the light. Watch all your pornography and masturbate out in the light. That way you don't hide it in the shadows.
We create more evil based on greed and even sexual pathologies and abuse of power. We need to reconquer the force of money, sex, and power to bring it under the divine, under higher values.
Yeah.
That's where we spiritualize it, so to speak.
Yeah. And just to continue with Jessica's post, she says, the shadow of Pisces can be seen in our destructive materialism as well as our longing for escape. So those are two sides of the same coin. It comes out in addictions, all kinds, masochism, guilt trips, propaganda, and mass emotion. Mass formation psychosis is definitely a Pisces thing because it's like the masses get kind of hook into this mass thought form almost, and they get convinced by it. Intolerance, dogmatism and blind faith.
Yeah.
So as we approach the end of the age, I'm just going to continue what she says, we appear to be drowning in Maya and self-deception. Dark fears and illusory hopes are bubbling up from the collective unconscious and taking over the masses. So that's kind of this Pisces thing, you know, all of the stuff from the shadows is like arising. And then she also says, you know, and I agree with this, there's also been a great awakening in spirituality, esoteric teachings, mysticism, depth psychology. While the media likes to fixate on fear, you know, there is more kindness and compassion going on than we're led to believe. The positive side of the internet is allows us to connect with people all over the world, and we can kind of see our similarity in them. And the highest expression of this Pisces archetype is found in the mystic and the recognition there's no separation between you and the rest of life. And this is an easy to understand and embody without losing your grip on reality and drifting off into a fantasy world. You need the discipline and focus on practical details in Virgo to balance it out. And she continues, the positive expression of Pisces comes from the crucifixion of the ego. The personal self is sacrificed for a higher truth. I would even say you turn your eye, your sense of yourself into a clear expression of the divine, basically, is what she's kind of pointing at. And this is achieved through the...
Basically. So, like, basically, you just kind of become like an image of, like, the divine. As you guys are listening, I'm sure for many of you as well, it's hard to listen to the nonsense. How, again, they rant and raved about... Can you believe these people believe in, like, theology? Oh, my gosh. They, like, literally believe the Bible. And then they start going in about astrology, Pisces, and I loved, who was it? Strauss. Shout out to Strauss 1414. They said soy German voice punctuated by a valley girl. Yeah, every 3 seconds is a tough sell. Hard to believe this crap is popular. I know, right? I know. It's hard to believe this crap is popular, but it definitely is.
Process of individuation and balancing of the opposites. And you can only do that by being present and grounded in the body, Virgo, while remembering your true roots as spirit in the divine, Pisces. And this sacrifice of the crucifixion of the ego that she just talked about often goes awry and turns into his opposite, ego inflation. You can see the results in almost every area of life, but especially those areas where ideology and belief dominate, such as religion and politics. This happens when ideals are interpreted literally and imposed from the outside. For example,
so ideals aren't supposed to be interpreted literally. So the ideal of the good isn't supposed to be literally mean you're supposed to pursue the good. What? This is absolute jargon nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
The attempt to subsume everyone under the central bureaucratic control of the state means imposing the ideology of oneness on the people. You actually even see this, you know, in both the woke left and the kind of dogmatic Christian. Is like the woke left is like, you must adhere to my pronouns or whatever. You must say you're anti-racist. This is this forced imposing of ideology of oneness onto the people. Same thing happening with the dogmatic Christian revival. You must accept Jesus and be a Christian to be saved. You're forcing your ideology of oneness onto the people. And you can only really do this, and this is what we're going to talk more about in the second hour.
Except those things are very different. If you're in England, you can go to jail for not using pronouns. In Canada, they can take your children for not using the tranny pronouns that they want to be used. Please point to me where people are being put in jail for not accepting Christ. Please show me the Christian culture where all these mean Christians and bigots are beating and harassing and trying to cancel and destroy people's lives because they won't accept Christ. It's a total false opposition in regards to them being equal. They're not equal. They're not equal at all. One is totally empowered by the authority of the state and the global governmental central bank system. And the other one is just a remnant of people who actually still believe in the whatever denomination they are in, the remnants of the basic tenets that built European society. Not the same thing at all.
You can only force your ideology onto people through violence, through oppressing the differences. This is where you get the Christian missionary, issues we've seen across the ages. And then she just closes it up and says, this new religion of scientism, which we've seen really amplified over the past couple of years, is also an expression of the shadow of Pisces. Our obsession with data collection, mathematical modeling, represents this overzealous Virgo. And so basically, to close it off, the dates are debatable, but I'll give you some couple of different theories. Basically, some argue that we're already in the age of Aquarius. Dane Rudgar actually said that it's going to begin around 2162, and the 12th house.
What the?
To be saved. You're forcing your ideology of oneness onto the people. And you can only really do this, and this is what we're going to talk more about in the second hour. You can only force your ideology onto people through violence. You get our obsession with data collection, mathematical modeling, represents this overzealous Virgo. And so basically, to close it off, the dates are debatable, but I'll give you some couple of different theories. Basically, some argue that we're already in the age of Aquarius. Dane Rudgar actually said that it's going to begin around 2162, and the 12th house, which means the final transit of the age of Pisces, began in 1882. Okay, this is a very interesting theory, though, which I haven't heard from another astrologer named Robert Tulip, and he basically said that the 12th house, which is the final transit of the age of Pisces, runs from December 2020 to February 2026. So we had a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius that happened at the end of December 2020. He says that was the beginning of the final age of Pisces. And that's actually really interesting to think about, because that's actually when I saw this exaggeration of both the Virgo and the Pisces archetypes start to really take hold in the collective. So I think...
No, 2020 wasn't when the Pisces was manifesting within space and time because of its astrological importance. Maybe 2020 was a point in which a lot of people left nonsense New Age and found Christ and Christianity because it is the truth and because it was a global pandemic. Therefore, it caused people, be given that they were on house arrest, that they had the time and opportunity to look into what was true, and their sincere pursuit of truth led them to Jesus Christ. Maybe that was the case. I don't know. I could just be out on a tangent, though.
He's kind of onto something there. But regardless, and I'm just going to finish up with Jessica's amazing report on this. She says, as the age of Pisces unravels, we will all be challenged to embody the meaning of that age. So embrace compassion rather than division. Embrace all parts of ourselves, including the parts we don't like, and become whole. And that is part of the Pisces archetype, striving for wholeness. Pisces contains the archetypes of every other sign. You can't miss them. And so, in order to do this, she continues, we need to resolve the split in our minds through a confrontation with the shadow, all the darkness and light we've denied, to balance the opposites. And the opposites will become more polarized as the shadow erupts from the depths, forcing us to deal with it. The polarization makes the opposites more visible and obvious and undeniable, but it also reinforces our tendency to project what we've disowned onto others. And that's what has to end.
All right. Thank you. Beautiful for sharing. So that concludes the first hour. I feel like we just...
All right, we're done. I'm going to save you guys. We're done. We're done with that podcast, but I'll show you what they said they're going to be talking about in the second hour. In the second hour? Oh my gosh. Here, let's zoom in a little bit so we can read this. Okay. Part 2. Here's what they talk about. For members, more examples of people transitioning from the New Age. Oh, you can't be New Age. Remember, you can't be in the New Age. You can't be in the cult. What's that mean? To Christianity and what these people see as demonic, crystals, tarot, sage. And that was a point. Christians aren't against incense. We use frankincense all the time. we're against the use of sage in the way that you use it because you think it is tied to a sort of sympathetic magical process. The dogmatic neo-Christian movement is going down a very dark place that has not much to do with the true Christ teaching. So again, if you pay your membership for the second hour, they'll tell you the true teachings of Christ. Here's this one. Going through the fallacies and distortions of neo-Christians engage one by one. Oh, wow. The parts that Christians are right about channeling, calling in spirits, etc. can result in entity interference and attachments. Divine will and God's word. Integrated shadow material from your own psyche can often appear as a demon. Oh, really? True Christian spirit and Christ consciousness. Of course, it always leads to the cosmic Christ consciousness, which I have a whole stream on if you guys are interested. Negative forces masquerading as positive ones. Archangel Michael, Pleiadian, spirit guides, and also Jesus, Virgin Mary, etc. Yeah, they're really demons. Gotcha, Christians. Laura's experience of having a powerful, fake vision of Jesus and another experience of real redemptive love. Oh, Laura, you had a real vision? Oh my gosh. Emotional love does not equal divine higher love. Didn't you know, dumb Christians? False light and occult deception. Carl Jung's perspective on dogma, dogmatic religious belief as a trauma response. Gotcha. You haven't brought in your shadow self. Gotcha, Christian. Next one. The Mother Mira Alfalsa on how occult hostile beings hang out in churches and temples, feed off people's worship and prayers. See, you didn't know you go into divine liturgy. You're actually feeding the demons. Gotcha. How Christianity has been installed, corrupted, and used for social engineering and takeover from a hyperdimensional perspective for the past 2,000 years. And I bet all they do is they talk about is the Catholic Church. The trap of externalizing evil. See, you're the one that's evil. There isn't evil out here. The external savior program and the corruption of Christian beliefs, religious trauma, and past lives. Wow. Sri Aurobindo on the necessity of the truth to evolve. Because truth evolves, don't you know? Truth's never the same thing, you idiot. Truth isn't objective and unchanging. Retard. The divine expressing itself through various new ways and not getting chained to post-dogmatic scriptures. Gotcha, Christians. 3 major transits to explain what's going on with the religious revival, New Age deception, and what's the reasons for the next year's Neptune in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, and Neptune in Aries. Uh-oh, we're having a religious war. Neptune is in Aries, guys. Neptune is literally in Aries. Watch out. Okay, you're welcome. I'm saving you from any further of this nonsense. You guys are not going to be subjected to any more New Age stupidity. I really appreciate you all being here. We got a few more super chats I want to get through. Guys, smash that like for everybody who's still here. I truly appreciate all you guys showing some support. I apologize for subjecting you to at least 12 minutes of an astrological interpretation of what's happening right now. I apologize. But I just want to thank you all for being here. Special shout out to all the homies over on Rockfin and all the other platforms, and of course, shout out to the true dogmatic Christians here on YouTube. Oh my gosh. You thought the New Age was dumb? Well, you haven't seen nothing yet. Oh my gosh. All right. Super chat came in from the Renaissance of Men, throws in $4.99 and said, I was in the New Age for 2 decades and came to Christ in 2020. I was on Bernard's podcast in 2021. He's since deleted. Would love to chat sometime. Oh, the Renaissance of Men. Well, shout out to you, brother. God bless you. I'm curious to know, shout out whoever sees the Renaissance of Men in the live chat. Shout out to you, brother. So again, he says, I was in the New Age for 2 decades, 20 years, and came to Christ in 2020. I was on Bernard's podcast in 2021. He's since deleted. would love to have a chat sometime. I would be quite interested. Reach out to me, the Renaissance of Men. What's your Instagram handle or whatnot? I'd be interested to hear what you're up to. Yeah. Well, God bless you, man. I didn't realize you had some content with Bernard and Laura and company. But anyways, that would be great. Yeah, I had been in the New Age probably for at least a decade. But remember, you can't be in the New Age Renaissance of Men. Bernard said so. You can't be in the New Age unless you're in a New Age cult. There is no New Age. You can only do New Age practices, which means you're not actually in the New Age. You're just doing certain practices. Duh. That's what we learned from tonight. But I'm not surprised that Bernard deleted your podcast if you've since come to Christ, and now they're doing nonsense like this, trying to articulate why are all these retards becoming Christians. That's basically the summation of their hour-long first half. But anyways, Renaissance of Men, thank you so much, brother, for the $4.99, and I'd definitely be open to chatting. You should reach out to me privately. We could get in contact. Next super chat comes from A. Herbst 458, throws in $3 and says, I know they mentioned Jung earlier. They were speaking of the dialectic of far left and far right. Do you think they study Hegel? First of all, I don't even think they studied Jung. I definitely don't think they studied Oswald Spangler. They brought up Spangler in that podcast. They brought up what she kept calling Jung or whatever. I don't think that they have a strong hold on what Carl Jung's depth psychology is. I doubt they have, multiple of his books looking into how he interpreted all this dream symbolism and the symbols and whatnot. In regards to the dialectic of the left and right, I mean, again, that would assume that the right is also some form of, falsehood. Like, again, in my worldview, I don't see a Hegelian synthesis between the thesis and the antithesis happening with regards to the dialectical use of oppositional forces within society. We can look at Republican, Democrat, all this. I mean, that is a sort of Hegelian dialectic, Republican, Democrat. And then what do we get? We always get that thing right in the middle. But really, it's more to the left, whatever it is. But no, I'm sorry, A. Herbst 458. I do not think they've studied Hegel. I don't think they've studied Jung. I don't think they've studied Spangler. I think they read some Wikipedia pages, and that's about as far as that goes. But anyways, thank you so much, brother, for the $3 super chat. And it looks like the next super chat comes from David Franco Jr. Throws in another one. Shout out to David Franco. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much. He says for $4.99, I can see how much of a grind this is for you to suffer through. Might as well just play a vid of chalkboard scratching. Yeah, no joke, David. Special shout out to David Franco Jr. for all the support tonight. Thank you so much, brother. But yeah, oh my gosh, listening to that nonsense is almost unbearable. It's literally almost unbearable to hear them talk about, Pisces and the Virgos within data collection. I mean, Neptune's getting ready to hit Aries, so watch out for a religious war. What are they talking about? Do they even realize what the Great Reset? They need to look into some of the more obvious political powers at hand here instead of this whole religious astrological interpretation. But it is what it is. It is what it is. David Franco, bro, thank you so much. I'm glad that you witnessed the struggle and the pain which I self-sacrificed. You see the Christ-like intentions here? I suffer through the nails on a chalkboard for you guys. I do it for you. I do it for you. No, I'm kidding. Thank you guys so much for the support. Special thank you to David Franco Jr. for all the support, man. God bless you. Yeah, he says group of shady Saturn worshipers. No doubt about that. There's no doubt. Yeah. Yeah, His Glory says, I think Pisces is in Uranus. I think that is actually where it is right now. That's actually exactly where it is. Laura just found it. They're charting it right now. It looks like it's actually moving towards a black hole. So Pisces and Uranus is moving quickly towards the black hole. We better watch out for the religious war. It's getting ready to happen. Yeah, Imptown says you're definitely in pain. The last 15 minutes was excruciating. The first 35 is kind of fun mocking them. Again, Lord have mercy on me. I'm sure I can be mocked in many ways for my own ignorance in many ways, but Lord have mercy on Bernard and Laura for their arrogance in their descriptions of the New Age to Christian pipeline, because I know for so many of us, we were actually in that New Age worldview, that New Age cultic nonsense, BS, sophistry, rhetorical garbage, again, that we just heard. A bunch of words that to them makes sense, but to anybody on the outside with a critical analysis says, are these people been lobotomized? I'm not convinced they haven't. So again, thank you so much, David Franco Jr. God bless you, bro. And it looks like the last super chat comes in from Philo. Is this Philo of Alexandria? Brother, wow, I read some of your stuff 2,000 years ago. You're still around and kicking. Philo says, would you do a stream on Earth Shape? Sponsored. No, because it's unprovable. So, I'm not, that's a topic I have no interest in, really. No interest in, and it has nothing to do with people's salvation, in my opinion. Is it possible the Earth is flat? Of course it is. Do I believe that we went to the moon? Of course I don't. Do I believe NASA is a propagandizing organization to color us with a worldview that's false? Of course I do. However, I don't know the shape of the Earth. Is there a big ice wall surrounding us and that's where this whole map is that why the UN has the map they do? Maybe I'm not sure. But I don't see the point personally in doing a large in-depth stream on the Earth shape, because no matter what I come to, I can't prove it. Are they using fish lenses on the space station? Maybe. I don't know. It's not my camera. I'm not hopping in a spy balloon and going up there. So I'm not sure. Does the Bible talk about a firmament? Of course it does. So I get it. I get the arguments. I just don't see where I can really make any progress on that topic. So Philo, I do appreciate you sending a super chat, brother. God bless you. The Earth shape, that's a topic I don't get into. So how old is the Earth? And what is the Earth shape? Those are two topics that I just can't prove. How old is the Earth? Well, again, I believe in God, as I've said before. Can God create a creation that is, as we look at it, it's 13.8 billion years old, but really it's only 6,000 years old? Well, yeah, of course he could. He's God. Do I believe in macroevolution? Of course I don't. It makes no sense. There is no evidence for it. Therefore, did God create a first species of all these animals? I do believe that. Therefore, would he create them as babies or adults? They would all be adults. Therefore, if he created animals and they were all in an adulted state, the Earth itself could be in an already aged state, an adulted state. And so we can do all the carbon dating and all the, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Is the Earth 12,000, 6,000, 7,000, 20,000? I don't know. And from my understanding as Orthodox, the church does not make a dogmatic claim on that subject. We do make a dogmatic claim on the nature of the Godhead. I don't believe the church makes a dogmatic claim on the age of the Earth. So that's one I don't do. How old is the Earth? What is the shape of the Earth? I don't know. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Philo. I do appreciate your support, brother. Good question. God bless you, man. I would love to do a sponsored stream, though. If you have another topic other than the age of the Earth or the shape of the Earth, I would love to do that. And so, thank you, Philo. Next super chat comes from Steve Teaver. Steve Teaver throws in $5 and says, thoughts on a prayer stream. Thoughts on a prayer stream. A stream in which I just sit here and pray? I mean, what exactly is a prayer stream? So, Steve, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Not exactly sure what you specifically mean on a prayer stream. A stream about prayer? Well, that's possible. I actually have a great book right here on Saint Sophrony on prayer. And that's a topic I'd like to do. It'd be a great sponsored topic if somebody wanted me to dive into and just read this whole book, and I could dive into Saint Sophrony's understanding of prayer. Do I just want to sit and pray for a whole stream? Not exactly. Do I want to read a prayer book? I'd read a prayer book. I could read a prayer book. So I'm not exactly sure what you mean, brother, on how to pray. What is prayer? What's the theology of prayer? You want me to pray? You want me to read a prayer book? I'm not sure. But if you're willing to sponsor a stream, we can definitely talk, and I'd be very open to doing a stream on the theology of prayer, or how saints have described prayer, or how we as Orthodox should pray. That seems like a good stream topic to me. So anyway, Steve Teaver, thank you so much, brother, for the $5 super chat. And our brother David Franco Jr. throws in one more super chat. My gosh, special shout out to David Franco Jr. for tonight's for his very generous offerings tonight in regards to super chats. He throws in another one for $9.99 and says, "Hey brother, another one." Well, thank you so much, David Franco Jr. God bless you, bro. Do you know when they'll have the deets for the next Montanica? Yeah, so I'll tell you right now. David Franco Jr., the next Montanica is from June 7th to the 11th. Let me just double check real quick. I believe that is it. Let me go to June. Yes, the 7th to the 11th. So I don't mean to make any, that is just what I've been told by Father Deacon, and we've already making plans. Now reach out to Father Deacon Dr. Ananias. He's the head of Montanica. He knows what's going on. He's going to be coming on along with Rachel. We're going to be promoting the heck out of Montanica. It's going to be even bigger this year. It's going to be probably a whole third bigger, and if 2/3 bigger. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun this year for sure. I'm the only non-clergy going to be there. And so from my conversations with Father Deacon, we're looking at the 7th of June to the 11th of June. And so I hope you guys can make it. Again, David Franco Jr., hope you can make it, bro. That would be great. He says, also, have you ever thought about doing a stream on 4 male Jungian archetypes, warrior, king, magician, lover? Yeah, that is, isn't that from some of the work by, Robert Moore, one of the University of Chicago psychologists who's a Jungian? I think he wrote a book on that. I have thought about doing a stream on that. That's probably a pretty good topic. For the 4 Jungian archetypes of man, warrior, king, magician, and lover. That's not a bad stream topic. Let me write that one down. Okay. 4 Jungian warrior, king, magician, lover. Okay. All right, David Franco Jr. I wrote that one down. That's a really good suggestion for a future topic. Not a bad idea. All right. So thank you again, David Franco Jr. Thank you so much, bro, for all the support. I hope you're able to make it out to Montanica. It's going to be a real fun time, and it's going to be the biggest Montanica thus far. Next super chat comes from Steve Teaver again for $3. Says, talk about prayer, maybe close it out with praying together and for each other. That's not a bad idea either. Yeah, I could. That's not a bad idea. Let me write that one down as well. A stream on prayer. Okay, on Orthodox prayer. And then pray together at end. I personally don't like praying in public just because what the Bible says about it. I pray publicly in church. I pray before I eat publicly. The idea of me praying on stream has always just had an unsettling feeling about why exactly I do that. I pray before I go on stream. I pray before you can see me, but the idea that I would sit and pray on stream has been a little bit unsettling, but that might be a good topic. Maybe Father Deacon can join me and I can get some articles and stuff and we could talk about that. But thank you, Steve Teaver, for that. I wrote that one down along with David Franco Jr.'s topic. Those are pretty good topics. Again, I appreciate it. Steve Teaver, thank you so much for the super chats, man. I really appreciate the $8. Thank you very much. Next one comes from Charisma Mysterion. Throws in $2 and says, "What's my horoscope say about tomorrow?" It says that you need to repent and find Christ. Charisma Mysterion. That's what it says. No, I'm kidding. That's funny. I know that was the hardest part. The cringiest part was listening to them go on about astrology after they've been bashing the irrationality and nonsense of Christian converts. So that is good. His Glory says a stream on Ken Wilber. That's another good one too. Debunking Ken Wilber. Debunking Ken Wilber. That's not a bad idea either. Is Spirit Man headlining Montanica? Yes. How did you know? He was actually the head bishop. All right. Well, thank you, Charisma Mysterion, for that funny super chat. And also His Glory. Thanks for that suggestion. That's not a bad idea. Last super chat comes from Philo. Throws in another $2 and says, "Why Werner von Braun's tombstone, Psalm 19:1?" Yeah, it has to do with the firmament. Yeah. I already said about the firmament. If you want to learn more about Werner von Braun, I would recommend also checking out the chapter on NASA and the religion of technology and looking at how many evangelical and Protestant Christians were actually a part of the moon landing mission. Now, again, I don't believe in the moon landing missions. Werner von Braun, for those of you who don't know, was a rocket scientist for the Third Reich, who then came and played a very crucial role in NASA. And he lived in Texas and became a devout Christian convert. I don't know. Philo, I think you'd probably have to ask Werner von Braun on why he believes that. Do I think that we went to the moon? No, I don't. As I said, do I think that there could be a firmament? I do think that's possible. I don't know, though. Can I prove it? I can't. I can't make a logical argument in the same way that I can make arguments for other things that I talk about on stream. But I'm very open to the idea. Yeah, Kurt Davis, NASA, look into it. Exactly. There's another one. So, yeah. That's a whole rabbit hole. I don't dive into that one, at least publicly. I've looked into Philo. I'm sure I've looked into the majority of stuff you've looked into, but that's just one that I don't do publicly, along with the age of the earth. I cannot prove those, neither one of those definitively, and therefore it's not something I spend a lot of time trying to articulate or express. But I appreciate the support, Philo. And yes, you're absolutely right. For those of you who don't know what he's referring to, is that the tombstone of Werner von Braun, the rocket scientist from the Third Reich, who apparently came and he was one of the leading members that took the charge of the moon landings and a lot of the rocketry within NASA, convert to, I believe it was an evangelical form of Christianity. On his tombstone, he has a Bible verse, according to Philo. I don't know the exact one. He's saying it's Psalm 19:1, which expresses that there is a firmament in heaven. A firmament. A firmament would be a sort of dome, if you will, around what's perceived to be a flat earth. So is that possible? Very much possible. Very much possible. I think that we're filled with a lot of mysteries in this world. But again, Philo, that's just not one that I personally do publicly. That one or the age of the earth, I cannot prove either. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it. I'm going to hop off here. God bless everyone. Wish you all a wonderful Valentine's Day. I hope your day was filled with love. And I will be back Thursday with a sponsored stream on a book called Satya. And it was written by a gentleman in our community. So I'll be doing a book review of his book, and that will be Thursday night. So Anyways, God bless you all. Smash that like. And until next time, as always,